of the National Assembly, this being the morning session of the 6th of April. The year is 2022. We are so glad you're watching. This broadcast has been made possible through the collaboration between the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation and the Parliamentary Broadcasting Unit. My name is Gladys Mungai, and now let's have a look at the highlights in the order of business this morning. Parliament will debate the Information Communication Technology Practitioners Bill, this being a bill by nominated MP Godfrey Osotsi, Bill number 38 of the year 2020. And after completion of the allocated time for debate, which is usually 3 hours, members will proceed to vote on that particular bill. Another bill that members will be putting their input on and putting a question and are taking a vote on the bill is the Insurance Professionals Registration Bill, this being a bill from the National Assembly, Bill number 25 of the year 2020. And this particular bill is by Honorable Benjamin Washiali. Two bills are set to be tabled for the first time before the floor. These are the Public Audit Bill, a bill by Mohammed Sheikh, Bill number 59 of the year 2020, and the bill by Mohammed Sheikh seeks to amend the Public Audit Act 215 to provide for the process of recruitment of Auditor General 6 months prior to the expiration of the term of the serving Auditor General. The bill by Professor Mohammed Sheikh Mohamud does not affect the functions of the county governments and is therefore not a bill concerning county governments, and this is for purposes of standing orders. And this is also not a money bill for the purposes of Article 114 of the Constitution, as the enactment of the bill will occasion additional expenditure of the public funds. Another bill set to be tabled before the floor this morning is the Child Justice Bill by Honorable Millie Mabona Odhiambo, and the bill by Honorable Millie Odhiambo seeks to provide for the establishment of the Child Justice Courts and to provide the procedure to be applied when prosecuting children accused of or charged with a criminal offense. The bill provides the procedure contemplated in the Constitution of Kenya and international conventions ratified by the Kenya, and this is in regard to the Convention of the Rights of the Child and the African Charter on the Rights and the Welfare of the Children. The bill contains provisions on the proceedings in the Child Justice Courts and the admission of certain evidence, and additionally the part that deals with the establishment of the criminal culpability. The House, under the Committee of the Whole, will consider the Community Health Workers Bill, this being a bill by Honorable Martin Owino, Bill number 30 of the year 2020. Another bill set for consideration before the Committee of the Whole is the Criminal Procedure Code Amendment Bill, this being a bill by Honorable Member for Belgut, Honorable Nelson Koech, Bill number 41 of the year 2020. A bill by Honorable Member for Nakuru Town East, Honorable David Gikaria, the National Construction Authority Amendment Bill, Bill number 45 of the year 2020, is also another bill that members of Parliament will be considering this morning. And so is the Children Amendment Bill, a bill by Honorable Member for Homa Bay Town, Honorable Peter Kaluma, this being a bill number 46 of the year 2020. The House is also set to consider the Public Procurement and Assets Amendment Bill, Bill number 49 of the year 2020 by Honorable Gathiru Mwangi. The bill is currently at the second stage, and so members will be seeking to make their input on that particular bill. The Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Moses Cheboy, is in the chamber. He is the speaker presiding over the business this morning. I now hand over for the live broadcast. Enjoy your viewing. Good morning.
Wabunge, tuombe. Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu ambaye kwa hekima na wema wako umeteua nyadhifa za viongozi na wabunge kwa ustawi wa jamii na utawala wa haki wa wanadamu. Twakusihi tutazame kwa neema nyingi sisi watumishi wako ambao umeridhika kutuita ili tutekeleze shughuli muhimu za jamhuri hii yetu. Twakuomba uteremshie baraka zako sisi tuliokutanika hapa na utujalie tuyatende na kufikiria mambo yote yatakayofikishwa mbele yetu kwa njia ya haki na uaminifu, ili utukufu na sifa zako ziendelezwe na ili kustawisha amani, fanisi na heri ya nchi hii yetu na wale ambao haja zao umezikabidhi mikononi mwetu. Amen. Honorable members, we do not have quorum at all. It's actually one of the lowest turnouts in a long time. So I order the bell to be rung for 10 minutes and request the whips to really work very hard. This is How are you?
You begin by naming those who are here.
The Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Moses Cheboy, has just ordered that the quorum bell be rung, and this is in line with the standing orders of the House, Standing Order number 34 subsection 2 on the quorum or the numbers in the House. As it stands this morning, the House lacks the requisite numbers to commence business this morning. And so in the next 10 minutes, members have the opportunity to make their way into the chamber. He has also directed that the Chief Whip also does the whipping of members to allow more members access the chamber this morning. A look at the highlights in the order of business this morning. After the consideration of the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Amendment Bill, this being Bill number 49 of the year 2020 by Honorable Gathuri Mwangi, the House will then consider the Pharmacy and Poisons Amendment Bill, Bill number 1 of the year 2020, and this particular bill is by Honorable Member for Nandi Hills, Honorable Alfred Keter. The Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Amendment Bill, Bill number 11 of the year 2021, a bill by Garissa Township Member of Parliament, Honorable Eden Duale, is also another bill that the House is set to consider this morning. The Public Service Internship Bill, Bill number 25 of the year 2021 by Honorable Naisula Lesuda, is also another bill that the House is set to make input on this morning. The National Government Constituencies Development Fund, a bill by a member for Butere, Honorable Tindi Mwale, is also a bill that has been lined up for debate this morning, and this happens to be Bill number 34 of the year 2021. The House is also set to consider the Penal Code Amendment Bill, Bill number 40 of the year 2021 by Honorable Nimrod Mbai. Bill number 2 on the Penal Code Amendment Bill by David Gikaria, Honorable Member for Nakuru Town East, is also another bill set for consideration before the House this morning. Honorable Irene Kasalu's bill on the whistleblowers protection, this being bill number 50 of the year 2021, is a bill that has been lined up for debate. And so is the Sexual Offences Amendment Bill by Honorable Gathoniwa Mushomba and the Alcoholics Control Bill. Members of Parliament continue making their way into the chamber this morning, and this is to allow for the House to at least raise the requisite number. As it stands and in line with the directives on matters COVID-19, at least 50 members of Parliament are required at any particular time the House is sitting. And so the quorum bell is ringing, and members of Parliament continue streaming into the chamber to raise that number to 50 to allow the House commence business this morning. The Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Amendment Bill, Bill number 34 of the year 2020, by Honorable Richard Tongi, is also another bill featuring in the order paper this morning. The Birth and Matters Death Registration Amendment Bill, Bill number 32 of the year 2020, by Gilgil Member of Parliament Honorable Martha Wangari, is also another bill that members of Parliament are set to debate this morning. The Institution of Social Work Professionals Bill by Honorable Joshua Kimilu, this being a bill from the National Assembly, Bill number 31 of the year 2020, is a bill that members will consider this morning. And so is the Matters Higher Education Loans Board Amendment Bill, a bill by nominated MP Gideon Keter, this being a bill number 29 of the year 2020. And after the consideration of that particular bill, members will be making their inputs in regards to the proposals in that particular bill. The Health Amendment Bill, a bill by Kandara Member of Parliament Alice Wahome, is a bill lined up for debate before the floor this morning. And this happens to be bill number 28 of the year 2020. According to Standing Orders number 34 subsection 2 on the quorum of the House, if there is no quorum present when the chair is taken at the time appointed for the meeting of the House, immediately after saying the prayer, the Speaker directs the quorum bell to be rung for 10 minutes. And if no quorum is present at the expiration of the 10 minutes, the Speaker may direct that the bell be rung for a further 5 minutes. According to the Standing Order 34 subsection 2, if there is still no quorum present, the Speaker shall adjourn the House forthwith until the next sitting. Business of the House is yet to kick off this morning, and this is owing to the fact that the House is yet to raise the requisite quorum to proceed with its business this morning. And the current time allocated is 10 minutes to allow for more members access the chamber, and the sergeant at arms are just at the entrance of the chambers to keep tabs with the members accessing the chamber and to determine if indeed that particular number will be achieved this morning. At the expiry of the initial 10 minutes, as had been directed by the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Cheboi, if at least 50 members will not be in the House this morning, then a further 5 minutes will be added to allow for more members to get to the chamber. And in the event, at the expiration of the 5 minutes, the House will not have reached the 50 members, then the Speaker will have no option other than adjourning the House until in the afternoon when the House is set to sit again today. So we are waiting to see if the National Assembly is going to raise that particular number. The Children Justice Bill a bill by Honorable Millie Odhiambo, further deals with the purpose of diversion of the conditions for diversion. And the part also contains the provision on the standards applicable to the diversion. And the part also contains provision on different levels of diversion. It further contains provisions on the victim offender mediation. And these particular diversions relates to the application of the acts and procedure to be applied during the conduct of the preliminary inquiry with respect to every child prior to plea taking. The part also contains the provision on persons entitled to attend the inquiry. And the bill further contains the provisions on the powers as well as duties of the preliminary magistrate. And the part also provides for the provision of the postponement of the proceedings and failures to comply with the diversion order. Part 6 of the bill provides for the legal representation and stipulates the requirements upon which a legal representative of a child must comply with. It also contains the provisions on the waiver of the right to representation. Part 7 of the bill deals with sentencing, and it contains the provisions on representation of reports. It also contains dealing with pre-sentencing reports and further provides for the community-based sentencing. The first schedule of the bill deals with the offences for which the child may not be arrested for unless there are compelling reasons for the arrest. Second schedule of the bill by Honorable Millie Odhiambo deals with the offences for the child and for the offences which the child may be released on bail by the Director of Public Prosecution, and this is in consultation with the investigation officer. Part 3 of that schedule deals with the offences for which the child may be convicted and which the presiding officer in the Child Justice Court may not take an order expunging a record of the conviction of the child. The memorandum of this particular bill, this being the Child Justice Bill 2022, is to provide for the establishment of the Child Justice Courts and to provide for the procedure to be applied when prosecuting children accused of or charged with criminal offences. The bill provides for the procedure contemplated in the Constitution of Kenya and international conventions ratified by Kenya, particularly the Convention of the Rights of the Child and the African Charter on the Rights and the Welfare of Children in the country. A look at another bill that will be tabled before the floor this morning is a bill by Professor Sheikh Mohammed, the Public Audit Amendment Bill of the year 2021, whose principal object is to amend the Public Audit Act of 2015, and this is to provide for the process of recruitment of the Auditor General. And this is 6 months prior to the expiration of the term of the serving Auditor General. The bill by Professor Mohammed Mohamud does not delegate legislative powers and does not limit the fundamental rights of freedom. The bill does also not affect the functions of the county governments and is therefore not a bill concerning counties, and this is for purposes of standing orders.
So if you have a few more, we then start off.
The Health Amendment Bill, Bill number 14 of the year 2021, by Honorable Mwambu Mabonga, is a bill at the second stage, and members of Parliament are set to debate it this morning. There's a current quorum hitch in the House this morning that has necessitated the delay in the commencement of business this morning. The Speaker directing that time is allocated for members to access the chamber. The Public Service Internship Bill, Bill number 25 of the year 2021, by Honorable Naisula Lesuda, is a bill lined up for debate this morning.
Let's get two more and we are good to go. Two more.
The National Construction Authority, this being an amendment bill, Bill number 45 of the year 2020, by Honorable David Gikaria, is also a bill lined up for debate in the order paper this morning.
And don't allow any member to go out because we were just making good progress.
The Criminal Procedure Amendment Bill, a bill by Member for Belgut Nelson Koech, Bill number 41 of the year 2020, is also another bill that members of Parliament are set to debate this morning. As it stands, the House is looking at raising at least members of Parliament in the chamber this morning for the commencements of the debate and business that has been lined up in the order paper this morning.
Well, let's proceed.
Has been achieved. Let's now follow up on the live proceedings.
Order number 1, administration of vote. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Chairman, the Honorable Mwadi, Chairman, Administration and National Security.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, April 6th, year 2022, morning sitting. Report of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security on its consideration of the Huduma Bill 2021, National Assembly Bill number 57 of 2021, and the annexures. I thank you.
Very well. Is that the only paper you have?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay, I will ask the other one. So let's proceed. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion. Order number 7, questions and statements. Order number 8, the Information Communication Technology Practitioners Bill, National Assembly Bill number 38 of 2020, second reading, question to be put.
And I put the question, which is that Information Communication Technology Practitioners Bill, National Assembly Bill number 38 of 2020, be now read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. And as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to provide for the training, registration, licensing, practice, and standards of ICT practitioners, and for connected purposes. Order number 9, the Insurance Professionals Registration Bill, National Assembly Bill number 25 of 2020, second reading. Question to be put.
Order. I put the question, which is that the Insurance Professional Registration Bill, National Assembly Bill number 25 of 2020, be now read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. And as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to make provision for the establishment of the Insurance Institute of Kenya and the Insurance Professionals Examination Board to provide for examination, registration, and regulation of standards and practice of insurance professionals and make provision for matters concerned thereof or therewith and incidental thereto. Order number 10, the Public Audit Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 59 of 2021, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to amend the Public Audit Act. Order number 11, the Child Justice Bill, National Assembly Bill number 11 of 2022, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to establish a criminal justice system for children suspected or accused of committing offenses to protect the rights of children as recognized in international instruments, to increase the minimum age of criminal culpability and for connected purposes. Order number 12, Committee of the Whole House.
Just a minute. Take your seats, honorable members. Just a minute. All right. Okay, call the order.
Order number 12, Committee of the Whole House.
Order members, we are now in Committee of the Whole House to consider the Community Health Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2020. Health workers, eh? Yes. Yes. Honorable members, the correct citation for this bill is the Community Health Workers Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2020, in consideration now.
Clauses 3 and 4.
I propose the question that clauses 3 and 4 be part of the bill. There's no amendment to this. I therefore put the question that clauses 3 and 4 be part of the bill. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Order members, the consultations are a bit high. It's not noise. I can see some very useful consultations between the Honorable Ashiali and the Honorable Maanzo, the member for Makueni, and the Honorable Sotsi. Those are members who must be consulting on very serious matters. But just keep the consultation slightly low so that we can also take care of business here.
Clause 5.
I propose the question that clause 5 be part of the bill. There's an amendment to this, and yes, the Honorable Martin
Thank you, Chair. I beg to move that clause 5 be amended as it appears in the order paper. Chair, the justification of this is that the amendment seeks to ensure that both the national government and the county government shall benefit from the advice of the Community Health Workers Council. Chair, move.
I now propose the question that clause 5 be amended as proposed by the chair. Yes. Honorable members, I see the Honorable King Ithoya, member for Magarini. You have something to say to this? The Honorable King? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I do support the amendment by the Honorable Chair.
Very well. Members, I now put the question that clause 5 as be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Will as members of a current opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the question that clause 5 as amended be part of the bill. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Will as members of a current opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 7.
I propose the question that clause 7 be part of the bill. There's no amendment to this. I therefore put the question now that clause 7 be part of the bill. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Will as members of a current opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable members, I've just realized that we jumped 6. So we will call 6, although we have dealt with 7, but we will call 6 so that we deal with it.
Clause 6.
I propose the question that clause 6 be part of the bill. Chair, there's an amendment to this, yes.
Yeah. Yes, Chair. I beg to move that clause 6 be amended as it appears in the order paper. Chair, the import of this is that the amendment seeks to ensure that the Council is adequately represented by persons with knowledge in community health, and also to ensure that county governments are represented in the Council. So I move.
I propose the question that clause 6 be amended as proposed by the chair. The Honorable Sankok, you have something to say to this?
Yeah, I support because it is very important for us, since health is a default function, to also have the county government come in and also the council being represented. So I support, Chair.
Very well. And now put the question that clause 6 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as members of a corner opinion say nay? The ayes have it. And now put the global question that clause 6 as amended be part of the bill. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as members of a corner opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clauses 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17.
I propose the question that clauses 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17 be part of the bill. I now put the question that clauses 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, and 17 be part of the bill. Will as men of that opinion say aye? Aye. And as men of the opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 18.
I propose the question that clause 18 be part of the bill, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I beg to move that clause 18 be amended as it appears in the order paper. And the import of this, Chair, is that the amendment seeks to ensure that a person shall qualify for appointment as a registrar if the person has any of the degrees recognized in Kenya and must also have a minimum of 10 years experience in community health. So I move.
I propose the question that clause 18 be amended as proposed by the chair. I now put the question that clause 18 be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the question that clause 18 as amended, be part of the bill? Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clauses 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, and 34.
I propose the question that clauses 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, and 34 be part of the bill. There's no amendment to this. I therefore now put the question that clauses 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, and 34 be part of the bill. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as have a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
New part 7.
Chair, move for second reading.
Thank you, Chair. I beg to move that the new clause 35 be read the second time. And Chair, the reason for this is the amendment seeks to introduce a transitional provision.
The Honorable Owino, we are dealing with the new part 7. Part 7. We have not yet reached it.
Yes, Chair, I beg to move that the new part 7 be read the second time.
Yes.
And the reason is the amendment seeks to introduce a transitional provision to ensure that 12 months of enactment of the Act, all persons currently working as community health workers will be required to attain the academic qualification prescribed in the second schedule so as to be eligible for registration under this Act. So I move.
I propose the question that new part 7 be now read a second time. I see no debate on this, no desire to debate. I therefore now put the question that new part 7 be now read a second time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
First schedule.
I propose the question that the first schedule be the first schedule of the bill. I now put the question that the first schedule be the first schedule of the bill. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. We will have a retake on the part 7. I just realized that when I was calling for the global question on it, I said clause instead of part. So I'll have a retake on that for purposes of proper recordal. So therefore, honorable members, allow me then to retake this and put the question that new part 7 be part of the bill. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. This new part 7. Very well. Honorable members, now I put the global question that new part 7 be part of the bill. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
First schedule.
I propose the question that the first schedule be part of the bill. I now put the question that the first schedule be part of the bill. Will as many of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Second schedule.
I propose the question that the second schedule be part of the bill. There's a proposal to this to amend.
Yes, Chair. I beg to move that the second schedule be amended as it appears in the order paper. And Chair, the reason is on qualification of community health workers. The amendment seeks to ensure that all persons performing the functions of community health worker shall be required to have only a minimum of a certificate qualification to be eligible for registration under this act. So I move.
I propose the question that the second schedule be amended as proposed by the chair. I see interest from the Honorable Sankok. I see interest from the Honorable Manzo.
Mr. Chair, I want to support that amendment. Chair, there has to be at least a minimum qualification so that a person who is dealing with health, he has to have some minimum knowledge in a particular area, and especially a little bit of training, Chair, so that they can be able to understand the basics about health or first aid. I support.
I now put the question that the second schedule be amended as proposed by the chair. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. I now put the global question that the second schedule as amended be part of the bill. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 2.
I propose the question that clause 2 be part of the bill. There's a proposed amendment by the Honorable Nyikal.
Chair, I wish to amend clause 2 of the bill as in the order paper. Chair, in part A, we are defining the community health unit because we make reference to this all along in the bill, and that is where the community health worker will be working, and it was not defined. In B, we want to define a community health worker. The definition in the bill as it is does not include the fact that this person resides in that community, selected by that community, and continues to reside in that community even after being selected and trained. The essence is to ingrain the residence of the community health worker in the unit. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable members, I now propose the question that clause 2 be amended as proposed by the Honorable Nyikal. Honorable Sankok.
Chair, I do support this amendment because we can't use words like community health unit without having the definition of it so that we know. And again, the community health workers essentially should be within that community so that they can resolve matters that may be needed in that particular community. You cannot be a community health worker of a community in Isiolo while you reside in Kisumu.
The Honorable Manzo.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, for you to be a community health worker, other than the definition which has been given, the people around that area must give you trust and must know that you have the necessary experience and you are available when emergencies occur. Most of these community health workers are people who assist deliveries or give first aid in case of snake bites. You see probably traditional methods, and therefore they need to reside within the community because a lot of times they are called for emergencies. I support the amendment by Dr. Nyikal.
The Honorable Mohammed Sheikh.
Been raised, so that's fine with me. Yes.
The Honorable Kibunguchi, member for Kuyani.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also do support this because a community health worker basically is a very local person. So we are defining the area where he or she works and also the fact that the community must have a lot of trust in this person. So I support the amendment.
The Honorable Pukose, member for Entebes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Chair. This amendment by Honorable Nyikal is a good amendment because for a long time, and I want to actually appreciate the Honorable Wino for bringing this bill because for a long time the community health workers have been neglected and they are not recognized. Yeah, I think this very clearly puts them wherever they need to be so that they can be able, they are the primary providers of health care. So at that level, level 1, I think this is a very good amendment that will be able to entrench into our laws and streamline the healthcare provision in this country. Thank you, Chair.
The Honorable Martin Owino, Member Fondiwa.
Thank you, Chair. Mine is to thank Dr. Nikal for this amendment because, Chair, these people, the asset they have with themselves is to the relationship which they create with their clients. And it beats the notion that which people say is they give 2 hours to the community. Once they have a relationship with their clients, they act 24/7. And also this definition will prevent transferring these cadres to other units which they are not familiar, and therefore that will beat the essence of this. Lastly, we were talking with Dr. Nikal. When he retires, he will also go to SEME and be a community health worker. And of course, we will qualify through those certificates we have mentioned. And anybody else here, teachers or Dr. Manso here, and everybody, even lawyers like him. So I thank you, Dr. Nikal, for this amendment. It befits.
Honorable members, now allow me then to put the question that clause 2 be amended as proposed by the Honorable Nikal. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Clause 1.
I propose the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. And now put the question that clause 1 be part of the bill. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Title.
I propose the question that the title be the title of the bill. And now put the question that the title be the title of the bill. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable members, we have completed that task. We shall then now move to reporting. The mover.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I beg to move that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Community Health Workers Bill, National Bill number 30/2020, and its approval thereof with amendments.
I put the question, which is that the committee do report to the House its consideration of the Community Health Workers Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2020, and its approval thereof with amendments. Will as members of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as members of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Honorable Speaker.
Let's have the chairperson.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to report that the Committee of the Whole House has considered the Community Health Workers Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2020, and approved the same with amendments.
Very well. Let's have the move of the bill to move agreement with the report.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. I also request Dr. Dahir to second the motion for agreement with the report of the Committee of the Whole House.
Thank you. So then, therefore, honorable members, I propose a question, which is that the House do agree with the committee in the said report. Well, I will not put the question now. We will stop that particular bill at that point. So we will proceed to the next order.
Order number 13, the Criminal Procedure Code Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 41 of 2020, second reading.
The Honorable Koech must be, it must be preparing for primaries. So then we will put this one down until such time that the mover is able to do it, most probably after the primaries of next week. So we put it pending. Next order.
Order number 14, the National Construction Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 45 of 2020, second reading.
That's a member for Nakuru Town East. Well, from where are you moving that particular bill, the Honorable Vicari?
I wanted to sit at the majority seat because in the next government, that is why I'll be
now
sitting.
you are having you are even
but now I've just decided
to
to sit at where
we do not anticipate positions. We deal with the no, proceed, Honorable Vicari.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Proceed. Just wanted to inform you that where you are standing for the time being belongs to the county of
Nakuru.
Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
But he comes from Nakuru.
Yes. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move this amendment on the National Construction Authority. Honorable Speaker, as you're aware, okay, sorry.
You are doing very well. Don't be confused by anybody, including the member for Endebess. Just proceed. You know, you are a seasoned
I beg to move that
proceed,
the National Construction Authority Bill number 45 be...
No, please, Honorable Vicari, you are doing very well. You have actually done very well, much better than, you are doing very well. The Honorable Member for Nakuru Town East.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the National Construction Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 45 of 2020 be read a second time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. You know, since I was kicked out of the chairmanship, I have forgotten quite a number of these things, but I'm getting, yes. Honorable Speaker, I want to, mine is very brief. Actually, it's nothing much. And Honorable Speaker, you understand that this act was brought to try and manage and tame some of these construction work that goes around. And people must get certificate from the National Construction Authority so that they can be able to do their work. Honorable Speaker, my amendment is related to the special groups, and that is the women, the youth, and people with disability. Honorable Speaker, if you remember, we moved an act through the Procurement and Disposal Act about the 30% procurement for these special groups. And Honorable Speaker, these groups have not been benefiting from the 30%. And it is because of some of the restrictions which have always been put, and they cannot be able to access because they are required, whenever they go for tendering, they are required to have this certificate from the National Construction Authority, which is a requirement, but most of the tendering entities. And so, Honorable Speaker, I beg to seek from what we got from the Committee of Budget then is to try and assist this group that they be exempted from paying some fees. And that is that the women, the youth, and persons with disability who apply to be registered by the board as contractors shall be exempted from paying the prescribed registration fee only in two instances. One, it is where the business is a startup business venture, and that is very critical because we know there are so many companies which have already been started, but any person, assuming this bill goes through and it is accepted by the President, is that in future, any person in this special group, and it's a startup, whenever they get their certificate of incorporation, and then they can be able to apply this, then they will be allowed to get these certificates from the National Construction Authority without a fee. And secondly, if this fee does not exceed 15,000 shillings. Honorable Speaker, you will realize that every class and every category calls for a particular fee to be paid, depending on the class that, or the class that somebody has applied. So this again will go a long way in addressing the plight that these special groups, whenever they get the certificate of incorporation, they can be able to easily access the 30% that is a requirement by law that should go to these groupings. Honorable Speaker, you will find that, as it has been said, the objective of the bill is to amend the National Construction Authority Act, or number 41 of 2011, to ensure that women and youth and persons living with disability will start up businesses who will apply to be registered as contractors under this category 6, 7, and 8. And Honorable Speaker, this is also very critical. You know that there are classes ranging from class 8 all the way to class 1. But this bill, once approved, it will only address these special groups in the categories of class 8, class 7, and class 6. And it is very away, that is exempt them from paying the prescribed fees. The amendment seeks to recognize women, youth, and persons with disability as marginalized groups and to caution them from the burden of paying a registration fee. Honorable Speaker, as I said, it is not a very big bill. It's just something that ought to help these special groups. This bill does not contain provisions limiting fundamental rights and freedoms. And most importantly, Honorable Speaker, it does not contain, it does not concern the county governments. And so again, it doesn't need to go to the Senate. Honorable Speaker, yes, it is a money bill. It is something that the enactment of this bill may occasion additional expenditure. And Honorable Speaker, I went before the Budget Committee, and the gains that are going to be that we are going to get from this supersedes what we are going to lose. And after all, Honorable Speaker is saying it is only for the startup. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request Honorable Dr. Pukose to second.
Dr. Pukose, Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to second the National Construction Authority Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 45 of 2020 by the Honorable David Kikaria, member for Nakuru East. Honorable Speaker, this is a very important amendment, considering that women, youths, and people with disabilities have been, they have been meeting a lot of challenges due to, we should be able to make it very easy for them to access contracts without making it very expensive for them, because if these are the vulnerable groups, constitutionally they are recognized as the most vulnerable groups and they must be supported. So this is a very important amendment by Honorable Kikaria, where he's making it easier, he's making it more friendlier for the youths of this country, for the women of this country, for the people with disabilities of this country, to be able to access contracts, to be able to access doing any procurement process within the country. And I think by reducing some of the costs and making some of the hurdles to be reduced, it makes it much easier for them to be able to access this work. And Honorable Speaker, you know, occasionally more often, the Constitution provides, the law of this land provides that 30% should be given to the youths, the vulnerables, and people with disability, women. But at the end of the day, when it comes to giving them jobs, they actually don't benefit from exactly this 30%. Because when you go to some of the institutions and you ask, what is the 30% that you've given for these groups? You'll find that the 30% is a very limited. It's not even substantial that they can be able to make them to be able to come up, what we call in UDA the bottom-up approach, because we want to support those who are in the lower cadre to be able to also invest and come up economically and instead of waiting for what they call the trickle-down effect. So I think this is in line with the bottom-up economic model. This is a very good amendment. It's a people-friendly amendment. It's an amendment that is trying to put the women, the youths, and the vulnerables in this country to a status that they can able to compete with other teams. So with those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I beg to support. To second, sorry.
Honorable members, allow me then to propose the question that the National Construction Authority Amendment, Bill, National Assembly Bill number 45 of 2020, be now read a second time. The Honorable Dan Manzo, member for Makueni, you'll have the first go.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a very important bill, and it is one of the bills which promotes creation of jobs in this country. Mr. Speaker, the people with disability have been disadvantaged for a very long time, and it has also come out that many people with disability are able, to have a lot of capabilities and are able to do a lot of things. Like my good friend, Honorable Sagok here is a medical doctor. There are many, and they are ordinarily, if you meet them, they are very determined in what they do, and they want to succeed, and they want even to do better than the people who are not challenged at all. Mr. Speaker, this is one way of encouraging them to start companies, to be able to make life for themselves and to create jobs for them. Mr. Speaker, you'll also realize issue of youth and women. And therefore, by waiving these funds for them, it makes it easy for them to be able to have a startup, to begin a business. Because nowadays, not everybody can fit into white-collar jobs. Many people have a lot of talents. I have a young man in Makueni who has a very big company, and he started it when he was very young. He started very small, and he does construction. You would imagine if the challenges he went through, and if he was never supported by selling the only cow they had to be able to register his company, he would not be working for county governments from different places of the Republic as he does today. And that's a good example of a young person who is very talented in construction, does not have the degrees, does not speak English very well, but when he does some construction, it comes out very well, and everybody else is asking who built this house, and I want that fundi to build for me also. And for that, he was able to do quite a number of CDF projects. He was able to do quite a number of county projects, and now he's doing national projects as a young man. The similar thing applies to women. A lot of Kenyans are jobless. Women are jobless. Youth are jobless. People with disability are jobless. But when you give them an opportunity to exploit the talent they have, which is what we are trying to do through this amendment, then you are going to create jobs for many people. And the good thing about these companies, these construction companies, they also employ other people. So that if a company is coming from a certain village, you will find quite a number of youths in that village are engaged very usefully during the day, simply because some 15,000 fee was waived. They will be able to employ more, and eventually they will be able to pay taxes. Because even for you to get these contracts, you must show your paperwork that for whatever you have done, you have tax returns. And that makes the country income grow. And therefore, it becomes easier for us to create jobs. Instead of promising in political podiums that you create jobs, this is a practical way, Mr. Speaker, of making sure that we have created jobs across the country. And this particular authority, National Construction Authority, has offices now almost in every sub-county in Kenya. Mini has got as many offices as the constituencies have. And that means that, first of all, you have people in the localities, in the constituencies, moving towards the constituency center or the headquarters of that constituency, where they will access this particular office through other government offices. Ordinarily, they are housed by other government offices, the Huduma centers. There is an officer in every Huduma center of national construction. And therefore, the young people watching us from Parliament today have that information, and they see this debate, and they are going to have hope, and they are going to visit the nearest Huduma center, and will seek for a waiver, and I'm sure they will begin their companies, and they will be able to exercise what they have learned in the local polytechnics, under the county, and they are able to do a lot of work in this time of devolution. Because, Mr. Speaker, during devolution now, a lot of things have been devolved to the countries. The nursery schools are being built by the counties. They need contractors. They need people who know something to do with construction. We are doing, in the CDF, have you received just $1 billion shillings in the last 10 years, Mr. Speaker? You can see what CDF has done with the classrooms of the chief and the local school. It means that a local villager is the one with the biggest access. A lot of work has been done more than what you have seen with the 80 or 90 billion thereabout, what has been received by the counties. And even if you are to go by the sub-counties, you find it's about 30 billion. But still the CDF with much less money is in touch with the community. And this is a way of promoting people from the community, people with the talent, Mr. Speaker, so that they can be able to do something useful for themselves and their family. And while they create jobs for themselves, they create jobs for others. It not requiring to go to Senate, and it requiring a little bit of financing from this House. I think this is the right time for this bill to pass. At the time we are discussing the budget, so that we can be useful as the next election come to Kenyans. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I beg to support.
Well spoken, the Honorable Manzo. You have just pricked my, and I'll never tire of saying this. This CDF that works in our constituencies, isn't it the best form of devolution? Can you imagine if we just took a trajectory of, what do you call it in mind? In law, we used to be called that wandering mind. That wandering mind, and one day we just gave each one of these constituencies $1 billion shillings every year. Will in Kenya be a wonderful place to live in? The Honorable Ole Sangok.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And before even I go to the nitty-gritty of this bill, let me commend you, because surely CDF have done a lot. As a person with disability, and having been the chairman, National Council for Persons with Disability, I've seen special schools being built by CDF. I've seen persons with disability going through primary school, secondary school, and even universities, courtesy of CDF. If I was to be asked, and I will ask these members of this House, that we just increase CDF by 10-fold. We have the power and we have the will. We can easily do that. Honorable Speaker, I support this very, very important bill and a form of bottom-up economic model, empowering the vulnerables, empowering the special interest group, those that are at the bottom of the economic pyramid because of the vicious circle of poverty among this special group. That is why even the framers of our Constitution came up with affirmative action funds to try and bring them at par with others, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, to target that group, Honorable Kikaria must have been God-sent. And Honorable Speaker, today we smile as person with disability because there is one member of parliament, among others, that who remember person with disability that they need not sympathy, but opportunities. They need to be empowered rather than being given handouts. Honorable Speaker, and I talk with authority about Honorable Kikaria, the MP of Nakuru Town East, because Honorable Kekaria started a school by the name St. Maria Veronica, Center of Excellence, in 2015, from scratch. And in 2019, when it did KCSE, the first time, it had 5 plain A's. Nakuru High School, both girls and boys, did not even have a single A, despite the fact that being national school. Honorable Kekaria built, Nakuru Town East constituency is a town, is an urban center. So ni shamba la mawe. The only thing they survive with is businesses. He built 1,500 stalls, well equipped. And out of that, 30% went to the affirmative action groups. 10% specifically went to persons with disability to do business in those stalls. Honorable Speaker, this man is a governor material. And I'm sure the people of Nakuru Town East are watching us. So therefore, on behalf of the 6.5 million Kenyans with disability, I may not have flowers or any present to give Honorable Kekaria, but I have a basket full of prayers for you and your family. May you be blessed for thinking about persons with disability. Honorable Speaker, ACPO, access to government procurement opportunities by women, youth, and persons with disability, the entry point is registration. For you to be able to access this very noble idea of empowering the affirmative action group through allowing them to do business, it is that certificate of incorporation. And that is where Honorable Kekaria have decided to target, so that you have that entry point. Honorable Speaker, if these chambers did not have that door, we will not know how we will come into the chambers and discuss the very important issues that we discuss here and prosecute the very important business here. The entry point of that ACPO, the entry point of persons with disability, women and youth to get government contracts, it must have be this registration through the certificate of incorporation. And that is what Honorable Kekaria have targeted, to reduce and to make sure that all of us are accessible. We have targeted this group because of the vicious circle among them, vicious circle of poverty among them. So if we target them and they cannot have that certificate, they cannot have that door to enter into government procurement opportunities, then we will have done nothing, Honorable Speaker. That is why you find most of them using other people's companies and applying for contracts, and these cartels end up making profits on behalf of those that the government actually targeted. Honorable Speaker, by targeting that, we have said that the class of contractors, class 8, 7, and 6, should be exempted if they are persons with disability, women, and youth, because they will not pay any registration fee that exceed 15%. By doing so, then we will economically empower a certain category of persons with disability, women, and youth through class 8, 7, and 6 of contractors, and they will have the financial muscles now to sponsor themselves to graduate into class 5, 4, 2, 3, and even 1, Honorable Speaker, because we have jump-started them. And these people, once they have been given opportunities, I'm sure they will work extra hard to prove that they are able and their ability is beyond their disability. Honorable Speaker, the only thing I want us to address even this bill, and I will like Honorable Kekaria to assist us in the committee of the whole House, so that we can bring the issue of also having equality within the affirmative action group. Because currently, the 30% allocated to women, youth, and persons with disability, the women, because of the help of their husbands, take 25% of the contract. The youth, being very fast or faster than persons with disability, will take 4.5%. So what remains for persons with disability is 0.5%. Honorable Speaker, and even those contracts given to persons with disability sometimes is supply of toothpick, toilet paper, newspapers, and certain materials that will not economically empower them as enshrined in this particular act. Honorable Speaker, so I want Honorable Kikaria to assist me so that if we say there are 3 affirmative action groups that access government procurement opportunities and they access 30%, then we give 10% to the women, 10% to persons with disability, 10% to the youth, because it's simple mathematics. 30 divided by 3 groups, each of them will get 10%, so that we can empower all of them at one footing. Honorable Speaker, this bill is very important. This bill has come at the right time. This bill has been brought by the very competent leader in this House. Honorable Speaker, how I wish I was a member of Nakuru Town East constituency. But now that I'm not, and I know there are persons with disability in Nakuru Town constituency, the 9 August election is coming, and such leaders should be in this House to be able to prosecute more important bills that will assist all of us, especially those at the bottom of the economic pyramid. Honorable Speaker, Honorable Kekaria is a true hustler who have been practicing bottom-up economic model as a leader long before we came up with this model. Thank you very much, and may God bless Honorable Kekaria. And also God bless you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to such an important bill. I wish you well, and I'm sure you will be in this House now to graduate from the Speaker's panel to a Deputy Speaker, and if possible, a full Speaker. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Zankok, today you are very generous. Even myself, I have now become a beneficiary of your goodwill. I am grateful. Thank you. I am very grateful. I hope that your prayers will find fertile ground to grow. The Honorable Mbogo Menza, member for Kisauni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this important bill that has been brought to the floor of the House by our able member, Honorable Gikaria, the former chair of Energy. And I wish he was still the chair of Energy. I think what we've experienced the other day will not have happened, and it never happened during his tenure. So it demonstrates that he's a capable member of this House. Mr. Speaker, this bill is very timely. It is extremely important to the marginalized groups, to the interested groups, that is the PWDs, the women, and the youth. Mr. Speaker, the National Construction Authority, it is a key component. Today, if you want to venture into the construction industry, you will not be able to be awarded any tender if you do not have, if you've not been registered by NCA as a contractor and you've not been provided with the NCA certificate, depending on the level that you want to practice. That is maybe from 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, all the way downwards. Mr. Speaker, the government has come up with so many initiatives that are meant to help the interested groups. If you look, we have the Youth Fund, we have the NGAF, we have the CDF, we have Uwezo Fund. All these funds were earmarked to help improve the livelihoods of the people who are living below the poverty line. But Mr. Speaker, when you look at all these funds and facilities that are available, it is really disappointing to see today that the youth, the women, and the PWDs are still suffering, and they cannot be able to access the 30% tenders that have been provided for. And the reason is very simple, Mr. Speaker. Most of them, they have really complied. You'll find a youth has all the documents, all the certificates that are required for that particular youth to access or to be awarded that particular tender. And most of the time, you'll find that youth, they may apply for that tender, awarded that tender, but the challenge comes in, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to the capital to start executing that particular assignment. So what has happened, Mr. Speaker, over time, the same big boys, the rich people, they have registered companies using youth. The same youth are just up front of that company, but at the end of the day, it is the big boys who are minting that money. The youth will just end up, or the woman, or the PWD, who will just be used as a front, will end up getting something small just to keep him moving. But the bigger chunk of the margin that will be realized from that tender will still end up with the big boys. And this is something, Mr. Speaker, that has to be looked into very seriously.
The Honorable Menza, Mbogo, you may recall, of course, what you're saying is very, very, very important, and it is true. But you may recall that recently we made an amendment to the Companies Act that requires that for every contract now we should have a declaration of the beneficial owners, the beneficial end owners of this contract. Will that be useful as you continue with your submission?
Mr. Speaker, you know, all that can happen, but the main challenge for the youth, the women, and the PWDs is not the documentation. The documentation could just be a tip of the iceberg. The main challenge is the working capital to do these jobs. And we have the youth fund, which has, we all know, youth fund is just centralized. You know, somebody living in Kisauni, somewhere in Mwakirunge, Maunguja, to access the youth fund, it's a real challenge. Uwezo Fund is so little that, yes, we are the patrons of the Uwezo Fund, but if you look at the amount that has been allocated to Uwezo Fund, it's so little, it cannot be able to assist our people. Mr. Speaker, the only area that we can be able to help our people is through the CDF. And I think we as members of parliament, we've done extremely well complying with the 30% rule, whereby we've awarded contracts and tenders to women, to PWDs, to the youth without favor. And this has worked very well. Mr. Speaker, I'll just speak about in my own constituency. When I took over Kisauni constituency in 2017, Kisauni had only 11 public schools. 11. Since 1963, Mr. Speaker. But over a period of 5 years, I've constructed 7 new schools in Kisauni, which has brought the number of schools from 11 to 18 over a span of 5 years, Mr. Speaker. And most of these schools were done by women, were done by the PWDs, and were done by the youth. But, Mr. Speaker, we know CDF has really worked, has done miracle in this country. And I think we know that from the budget that we passed the other day, the CDF allocation has been increased from the 2.5 to 4.5. I think we will be able to see more miracles happening on the ground, because CDF, it is in line. It is the only program that connects with the common mwananchi down there. We've seen what the counties have been receiving billions of shillings every year. But when you look at what the county has done in your own maybe county, you'll be shocked. You cannot even put in tandem, and maybe you perform better than your own governor in your own county, because the CDF money, there is proper audits. We have the PMCs who are monitoring the projects on the ground, and we've seen value for money for the CDF money. And this is also what has helped the PWDs, the women, and the youth, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I fully support what Honorable Gikaria has brought to the House. It is really timely, and I think as this House, when we come to the House of the Committee of the whole House, we need to factor in like what my colleague, Honorable Sankok, has just put in, because we also have to protect the PWDs. Even though we are aware that when an advertisement is done for any tender, if it is for the special groups, it is clearly earmarked. You'll find this particular road is earmarked for the youth. This particular school is earmarked for the women. And this particular project is earmarked for the PWD. So it is clearly stated. But nevertheless, we need to protect these special groups. But the bottom line, Mr. Speaker, is the funding to these special groups. If we do not address the issue of funding, even if we do anything, even if we say today the certificate of incorporation is free, we say the NCA registration is free, we say all the certificates are free, the same big boys will use the youth and the PWDs and the women as fronts, but at the end of the day, they will take everything home. So, Mr. Speaker, I full support. Thank you.
The Honorable Menza, very well spoken. Indeed, the work that the CDF does gives me a lot of solace in Luanda, where I come from. I'm proud of the work that is done through this CDF. The Honorable Kiai Gidiaka, member from Kuruaini. Just hold on. The Honorable Murugana, you've been on top of this list, but I had noted that you seemed to be scribbling furiously away. I'll give you an opportunity as soon as I can. But let the Honorable Kiai proceed first.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I stand to support this very credible and very important piece of legislation. Mr. Speaker, you realize that we need to, the amendment is intended to make sure that the women, youth, and PWDs are exempted from paying the prescribed fee for categories 6, 7, and 8. Mr. Speaker, it also recognizes the women, youth, and PWDs as a marginalized group. So in essence, this is an affirmative action to ensure that the opportunities that are available in the construction industry are well spread out. Currently, the situation is that only the big boys are involved in these big tenders in the government and, of course, in the public sector. So it gives an opportunity to young women and, of course, PWDs to have a bite maybe at a piece of the pie. Mr. Speaker, what this bill will do to our economy is to expand the employment opportunities and the employment space. You realize the youths, when they are starting up businesses, they face a myriad of challenges, one of them being they do not have the necessary capital to start up a business. And number two, there are too many handles before you register a company or before you register anything that is business-oriented. So by removing this big burden from them, then it ensures that the money that is saved from that can be utilized as part of the startup capital. For the PWDs, Mr. Speaker, in Mukurweini, what we have done is we have the best PWD project in Kenya. And one of the ways of doing this is ensuring that the opportunities afforded by the CDF, those that commit to have PWDs enjoy the piece of the pie when it comes to tenders given out by the CDF, they are available to all of them. Mr. Speaker, we have constructed schools, we have constructed roads, we have constructed many other institutions in my constituency. And 30% of that has been done by the PWDs. Mr. Speaker, PWDs are a marginalized group, right from the national government all the way down to grassroots level. And what we need is not to pity them. What we need is to create an environment, legislative or otherwise, that makes sure that they access the opportunities. After all, most of them, they're just like me and you, only that they have one handicap or the other. Perhaps, Mr. Speaker, is only that our handicaps are invisible. They are not, they cannot be seen. But otherwise, they are as good as we are. We have seen 001 in this parliament being one of the most active members of parliament, despite his handicaps. It doesn't mean that he is less competent. And this is what this amendment is trying to do, ensure that we bring them to a level playing ground where they have easy and equitable access to opportunities that are funded by the construction industry. As for women, Mr. Speaker, women are an integral part of our society. And when it comes to the construction industry, most of the work is done by men. You cannot compete with men when it comes to, building, construction, and et al. And it is only right and fair that the women also are afforded an opportunity to compete effectively with men in the construction industry. Mr. Speaker, we have also to appreciate that being a young person in this country, comes with a lot of challenges. Being a PWD in this country comes with a lot of challenges. And being a woman also comes with a lot of challenges, especially when it comes to access to opportunities. And this amendment by Honorable Gikaria is one of the best ways of addressing this imbalance that seems to have been perpetuated since independence. So I support, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Kibunguchi, Dr. Kibunguchi, member for Likuyani.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I will, before I support the amendment, I would like to also join you, especially Mr. Speaker, and the rest of the people who have compared the work that has been done by the CDF and the county governments. Mr. Speaker, sometimes in my fantasies, I sometimes fantasize that Kakamega County, for example, is given approximately 12 billion shillings every year. And in Kakamega, we have 12 constituencies. So sometimes I imagine and say, suppose each constituency was given 1 billion shillings. Just looking at some of the rough figures that go towards many of these things that are done in this country, like roads, tarmacking roads, and the low seal volume technique, I think a lot would have been done. And Mr. Speaker, I would like to agree with you when you said CDF probably is the best form of devolution. And I wish as we go forward, we'll have to think through how we can get the county governments, try and put them so that we don't give them, Mr. Speaker, a blank check, so to speak, but try and put them in some straitjacket, and so that they have parameters within which to operate. The way things are, Mr. Speaker, is county governments operate like they are laws into themselves. And I just wanted to commend you, what you had said, and agree with you 100% that we'll have done much more, a lot more, if this kind of money was channeled through the constituencies. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like now to come down to the bill by my friend, Honorable Gikaria. And I agree with him 100%, and like all my colleagues have said, it is a simple amendment, but it has very deep ramifications. It has very deep, and it will make a lot of difference as we go forward. Mr. Speaker, I have seen groups, especially in my constituency of Likuyani, I've seen groups that are given projects, and because of that, just one requirement, that certificate from the National Construction Authority, just that one, and then they cannot move forward at all. So if we can be able to open this door, if we can be able to make it easier for the groups, especially the affirmative action groups of women, youth, and people living with disability, I think that is a wonderful way of getting these people to have a startup, and then from there they can move forward on their own, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would also like to say another thing, because just like we have said, if we cannot be able to get, most of the money coming through CDF, Mr. Speaker, we would like, and as a parliament, and I think this bill has come from the Senate, we would like to be able to establish, and we should move and establish a fund that is called a Ward Development Fund, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as you realize, most of the basic functions, most of the functions of the county government are the functions that touch mwananchi directly. Okay, they are functions that mwananchi will feel. By that I mean, Mr. Speaker, functions like water, availability of water, hospitals, and most of the time the people who are having problems, hospitals, especially the acute problems at night and etc., are the small kids, Mr. Speaker. Issues like the nursery school, and this is under the county government. Issues like the small markets and small business people and people who are doing small businesses, they are all under the county government. So, Mr. Speaker, what am I driving at? If we could be able to have a fund at the ward level, I know some counties have established this, but most others have not because of the excuse that it is not in law. If we could be able to establish a ward development fund, I think we could be able to deal with these basic problems at the grassroots level. Establishing of dispensaries, establishment of water, and where women and can get water easily. Mr. Speaker, like I'm thinking about refurbing and putting together springs. In my constituents of Lukiani, we have so many springs. And this is something that is very, very, very useful. I keep telling people who talk about we want piped water. Excellent, Mr. Speaker, if we have piped water, it's nice to have piped water. But piped water comes with a cost. And some of the costs might not be much, it might be 200 shillings per month or 300 shillings per month. And many people in the rural areas cannot afford this. So if we can be able to put together some of these facilities, springs and small wells, so that we can protect them and for our people to use, Mr. Speaker. And I digress a bit because basically I agree with what Mheshimiwa Gikaria has put forward. But some of the ideas that I think we can be able to improve the livelihoods of our people is what I want to touch on, Mr. Speaker. And I would like, as we go forward, because I think devolution is here to stay, but I like as we go forward that we can think through and see how best can we have devolution best serve our people. And those are some of the things that I'm thinking about, Mr. Speaker. So, but coming back to the bill, yes, I agree with Mheshimiwa Gikaria, and I support him 100%, and I think this is the best way to go. I support.
The Honorable Kibunguchi, you do not digress at all. The matters we have spoken to are the real matters that concern our people at the village level. And this is what we are about. It's very important. The Honorable Murugara, finally.
Thank you, finally. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir. Allow me to rise and support this very timely bill brought by the Honorable Gikaria. Also allow me to say a few words about Honorable Gikaria towards the end of my speech, and you, the chair, also, because I never miss something to say about the speaker, you as the speaker on the chair, from time to time. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have said this bill is very timely in that continuously we must look at the vulnerable groups in our society and take all what it takes to ensure that we protect such groups unreservedly, and that when we are developing our country, we must also put into focus these vulnerable groups. And the groups are actually our ladies, the women, the youth, and the persons with disabilities. NCA has this Act of Parliament which provides for payment of fees or charges when applying for licenses and certificates, or even the registration. And when we were passing this particular act, we were oblivious of the fact that we must at all times bear in mind that the vulnerable groups, the groups that require affirmative action, are taken into consideration. And this has been going on for a long time in our country. It is not the best of practices, but I'm happy to see the political parties, when they were registering their nominees, have actually taken into consideration these groups, and especially my party, the UDA. NCA now must move and ensure that we do protect the vulnerable groups by first and foremost exempting them from paying any registration fees when they are of the lowest candor. And these are the people we call hustlers. These are the people we find at the bottom. People we must always bring up when we are talking about economic models. We started with the bottom up. Eventually, we were told, no, we can call them the vulnerable, we can call them the sufferers, and we give them all other names. But it boils down to one thing. The affirmative action groups are these three: the women, the youth, and the persons with disabilities. Even when it comes to registering these people, we must also take time to train them. And especially now that we have TVETs strewn across the country in almost all the constituencies of Kenya. We've talked favorably about the CDF, which is an iota of the funds we have in this country. But whose effect and whose visibility is all over the country. Let us extend this to the training of women, youth, and the persons with disabilities in our TVETs, so that they qualify and they are able to be registered when NCA is actually giving out the licenses. When we train them, we train our women, we train our youth, we train persons with disabilities. We are improving the lives of these persons. We are improving the lives of those who depend on them. We are also improving lives of these Kenyans as we do for everyone else. Let us not always train our eyes on those who are at the top, those who have made it in life, those who claim to be very well educated, those who claim to be rich. Every Kenyan is equal to the other. Let us spend our resources to benefit every Kenyan in spite of the person's status in the life ladder. We are all important, and this is why today, this morning, we are debating about the vulnerable people. And let us extend this to even the GAF, which is with our women representatives in this particular house, that they emphasize mostly on these vulnerable groups. Thank you, Honorable Gikaria. This is timely. And we must accord accolades to Honorable Gikaria because he's a great leader. And the people of Nakuru Town East must actually be looking upon him, even for further leadership. I remember the days of Honorable Gikaria as the chairman of Energy within Osagia, because that was before these unwarranted purges came along by Jubilee and the other parties that thought the best way to deal with things is to purge those whom they felt should actually be purged. I had problems with energy in Tharaka, and the Honorable Gikaria would actually summon the relevant agencies, and as a result of that, today I proudly speak of what he did. Thank you, Honorable, and I wish you well. Mr. Speaker, thank you for allowing me to talk. Remember, Honorable Speaker, I have known you since you were a young boy in high school. You became a young lawyer. Believe you me, I mentored the Honorable Speaker as a very nice, obedient young man in high school because I was in Form 5 up there when he was in Form 1. Mr. Speaker, he became a young lawyer and he found me in the profession. I mentored him absolutely. He's one of the best lawyers we have in the country. And when I came over here, I found he had done his first 5 years. So he now becomes my senior, and he's now a speaker, so again, he's my boss. But for that, Mr. Speaker, I wish you well. Let the people of Rwanda continuously look upon you with favor. And for you and the Honorable Gikaria, may God bless you, may God grant you victory as we all go to the people in August to give us another mandate. I also pray for myself. The people of Tharaka must be watching me, and I seek favor from them. God bless you.
Amen.
I support.
The Honorable Gitonga, thank you. Thank you. I recall when I came to that great school at Form 1, and you took me under your wing, and you allowed me to share in your Milo, which was a rarity in those days, in the evening. And you broke bread with me when I was absolutely undeserving of it. Thank you, and may God bless you too. The Honorable Mohammed Sheikh, member for Wajir South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think before I even do my contribution to this motion, I think it's quite amendment. It's quite interesting to hear from Honorable Gitonga about your early days in school, and it does inspire many of us to hear the journeys that you both took together and eventually in this very honorable house. But anyway, coming back to my contribution on this, I think it is very important that we acknowledge that the amendment to the National Construction Bill, Authority Bill, is that the honorable member who has raised this has really highlighted the critical issues that are there. For me, I will only say one thing, and that is quite important that I highlight, that the consideration of young people in this bill is what really inspires me to mention that the rights of the young in this country who are in business, particularly who are in construction business and the likes, need to be looked at. And therefore, what is really valuable here is that the opportunities given to the younger people at this juncture is something that is going to contribute to the wealth and the growth of this country. And therefore, this is an important bill that I would say I support. And thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
The Honorable Safia Sheikh, member for Marsabit.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Women, people with disability, and our youths have been facing a lot of discrimination in many different ways. Giving opportunity to this group of people will empower them economically, emotionally, socially, economically, will empower them. They have gone through a lot of challenges because of how communities are treating them. These are the most needy and marginalized group of people in our society, in our communities here in Kenya. So it is very important to empower them, to give them opportunities, and then empower them economically and give them opportunities to do what they are supposed to do so that they can be able to fit in the society, in the community like any other people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity.
The Honorable Ngugi Ndwati, member for Gatanga. The Honorable Kevin, you have just walked in. You cannot protest. Just hold on. All these members were here before you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. He has no right to protest because he came after me, although he's a great friend of mine, and I appreciate he's always here in Parliament to contribute. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, I want to say that I support this bill. It's a good amendment. Anything which will go towards supporting our youth, I will always support. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, I want to say that it is very expensive for our young people to join the construction industry. Starting just by the name search, which is about 200 shillings, to do a search of a business name. Again, to register that particular business name is 600. Then, Honorable Speaker, if you want to register with the NCA at the lowest category, it costs about 8,000. And you'll have to come to Nairobi. Those services are not readily available in the rural areas. So you find it's very expensive. Again, Honorable Speaker, not even the amount, even filling the form itself, it's very complicated. Our young people cannot be able to do it, and that is why I really want to support what Honorable Gikaria is trying to do. Honorable Speaker, again, even when you register, again, the other requirements. Of course, you have to register for NSSF, NHIF, you have to register for tax, all these things, which are very complicated for our young people. Again, Honorable Speaker, looking at what the government was doing recently, the construction of the CBC classes, if you look at the tender documents, the requirements, even to tender to build a class, there are very many. Even for a person who is educated like you, to fill that tender document will take you a day. Even as we talk about NCA, we also need to look at those tendering conditions, which are not favorable for our young people. And Honorable Speaker, it's a high time the Public Procurement Authority came up with a simplified document, which can be used by our young people and our women. Again, Honorable Speaker, capital. Starting a business, even for you register, if you are awarded just a toilet, which will cost 500,000. As a young person, even to raise 100,000 is very difficult. And Honorable Speaker, I wanted to propose, and I've discussed with the Honorable Gekaria, there's something which used to happen in the 70s. When you are given a job, you advanced money. Then that money would be deducted in 3 equal installments. This is something which we need to bring back if we are going to create jobs and to encourage our young people to join this industry, which we vote a lot of money. Honorable Speaker, when we sit here, and tomorrow we'll be here for budget making process, for the reading of the budget, you'll find that a lot of money goes towards infrastructure, power, roads, schools, health, and our young people, Kenyans are not, and they are not able to participate because of capital. So, Honorable Speaker, my proposal would be we bring back advance payment, which maybe you can start deducting from the second certificate. It used to happen in the past, and it really promoted the Kenyans in the 70s. Again, Honorable Speaker, I would propose we also find ways of financing these jobs for young people. We can encourage, especially CDF committees, to team up with the local suppliers, where we can give, maybe when a young person is given work, he can be able to give an irrevocable authority where the supplier can be paid direct. We must look for models which will encourage our young people to join the industry. Again, Honorable Speaker, we are training very many young people in our TVETs. Very many people, but they are very discouraged, Honorable Speaker. Because when they come out here, there are no jobs for them. Because most of the jobs locally, all the big construction works are being done by Chinese. All of them, we have pushed out all our local people, given all the jobs to Chinese. We vote money, our people cannot benefit. Of course, Honorable Speaker, it has been said that 30% to 40% should be set aside for locals. But Honorable Speaker, that one has never been documented anywhere. Even those documents, when they are being made. There's no provision that this 30%, this is the 30% which will be done by a local person. So, Honorable Speaker, I would propose, when we are giving out those huge tenders, it should be clearly set in the tender document, this is what will be done by a local, even the mode of payment, Honorable Speaker. I want to propose that it is done directly. So that if it's a Honorable Speaker, Ndwati Ngugi who is doing that job, it is known that when I do that job, I'm paid directly, so that we can benefit our people. Again, Honorable Speaker, there are some of these Chinese who come here to do one particular job, but you find they overstay. They now start competing with our locals. We push out our people. So, Honorable Speaker, it's a high time we change the model. And again, Honorable Speaker, there's something I want to talk about which Honorable Sankok has been talking about. And Honorable Sankok, I want to encourage you. This idea of calling people hustlers is not a good thing. Because Honorable Sankok, when you go to Murang'a, some sections of Murang'a, there are people who had come to Nairobi here just to polish, to do shoe polishing. There are other people who had come here to sell, a whole village to sell newspapers. There are people who came to Nairobi to sell vegetables. I'm a product of Mama Mboga. And when you sit here and say that Mama Mboga is a hustler, that is bad enough. Because you cannot call my mother a hustler. Because she took me to school. I went through primary school. She took me through secondary school. She took me to university. And I'm here with you. So, Sankok, I would encourage you that time. And if you want to encourage our young people, please, I just want to say that even our young people, Honorable Sankok, don't call them hustlers. If you want to encourage them to join, we are fighting for them here. We are fighting for them here, Honorable Sankok. We are fighting for them to join the industry. Then again, you cannot go ahead and call them hustlers.
The Honorable Sankok allow the Honorable Ndwati to finish his submissions. I'm sure the Speaker discerns that his intentions are noble. They are not.
Yeah, so that is what I wanted to say, Honorable Speaker. I wanted to tell Honorable Sankok, I'm a product of Mama Mboga. And my mother used to make a lot of money, by the way. And I know when she was working, Honorable Speaker, she used to earn more money than what I'm earning in Parliament today. And we were a family of 9 kids. So she did her work as required, and even much better maybe than some of us here. Honorable Speaker, again, back to the bill. Coming back to the bill, Honorable Speaker, I want to encourage members here of Parliament. I want to encourage them to support our youth through CDF, NCDF, which is a very great kitty, Honorable Speaker, and which has really been of much assistance to our local people. And that is one of the ways which we can use to promote our young people, to join the industry, and it's a good industry, Honorable Speaker. I belong to the industry. And Honorable Speaker, I started as a young person. At category 8, then Honorable Sankok, the lower class, then you build up. Now I'm just one class below the Chinese. And Honorable Sankok, and as a young person, Honorable Sankok, I want to tell you, as a young person, I built up that company, which I use today, from a small company to an award-winning company. In the year 2007, I won an award as the 3rd best performing contractor in Kenya. So that is a good thing, which I want to encourage our young people, wherever they are. Do not agree to be called hustlers. Work hard. I know you can achieve whatever I achieved. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me.
The Honorable Sankok just relaxed. The Honorable, I want to confirm to you that the Honorable Ndwati has done well. I am witness to what he has done. And, but I just want to also advise him going forward that invoking that particular word, hustler, in the Kenyan nomenclature, it has attained a certain notoriety in the political space. So you will not use it in the usual ordinary way that you look at it as from the dictionary meaning of it. it has attained a different class of recognition in the country. So it has become a political word, and we have accepted it. So we will live with it. So Honorable Sangok, relax. There's no harm. There's no harm. No, you have contributed and is finished. So I'll allow the Honorable Anyonyi now to make his contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the chance to contribute to this very good bill. I want to thank Honorable Gikaria for coming up with this bill, which is actually a homemade bill. I think it's a lot of realities in the whole bill. One is that given that the youths and women are the majority in this country, and this actually should be able to help us and open up ways and means for the youths and the women to be able to get some contracts and employment as well. You know, Mr. Speaker, that the youths and women and population-wise, I was looking at the newspaper yesterday, they are the majority in this country. Women today are almost 57%, of course more than men, and the youths are more. And therefore, this way, I think we'll be able to create time and space for the youth to be able to get jobs. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, in supporting this amendment bill, is that at the time of application for your company, whether the women or youths or the people with disability, I think the details must be there, so that when you're looking at the company profile, you'll be able to profile the company to see whether it's made up of the women, if it's a women group that has actually formed the company, or for that reason, the youths. The ages must come out very, very clear. Of course, if it's with a company for disabled brothers and sisters, should also come up very well so that can, when you are looking at it or evaluating, they are given the first priority in terms of awarding, so that they are awarded given the fact that, of course, it's made up of disability or the women groups, what have you. Mr. Speaker, the other thing is that I think we should be able to do, given that we have the CDF. In the CDF, of course, we have got the project management. And again, once we pass this particular bill, it should also come out very, very clear that when you're evaluating, when doing the evaluation of the companies that have applied for a specific job, we again have to put into consideration, the Speaker, that the people with disability are given, because the company will show the profile and the level of education for the main contractors of that particular, the main directors of that particular company. And of course, that again should come out very clear, so that when the project management committees of the CDF would be awarding that particular group, given that, of course, it's made up of the disabled persons or directors, and therefore be given the opportunity to be able to do that, because it is discriminative in the sense that we are looking at them as if it's their own creation. Being disabled, unless, of course, one has got a road accident, like a friend of mine had an accident the other day, and now he has had his hands cut off, and he was actually a CEC in one of the disciplines in Trans Nzoia. But some of them are born with disability, and therefore disability is not actually, it's just that it's a co-creation, it's not the one's making. And therefore, I think this Deputy Makaria, I think you did very well to come up with this bill, and therefore we're looking at it even from the CDF point of view. And I want to make it very clear that one, you have a project, whichever magnitude the project is, we look at the directors of that particular company that you are giving. So priority should be given to that, so that our brothers and sisters who are disabled, women and their youths, be given the first priority. as of course we know they are the majority. Lastly and not least, we should make it very clear, and this, I think during the third reading, we'll be able to do the amendment on this particular bill so that it's acceptable across the board. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for the chance and thank Honorable David Gikaria for coming up with a very, very good bill that is actually a homemade. It's not theoretical, it's something that is affecting you and me in our day-to-day activities in building the nation of this country. I support, Mr. Speaker.
The member for Karachuonyo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. And let me start by saying that I support the amendment. And I feel that when CDF is touched, I know we are touching the heart of this country in terms of development at the grassroots. CDF has done a lot. The achievement of CDF is probably comparable to no other system the government is using. CDF must be inclusive so that people with disability, women and the rest who are disadvantaged in one way or the other can really find solace in CDF. CDF can develop them. This is development in terms of human beings. But then CDF delivers what they are doing in terms of projects. They have delivered quite a lot. Anywhere you go, people talk.
The Honorable Member for Karachuonyo, just hold on. The Honorable Sankok seems to have a point of order.
Honorable Speaker, I think the Honorable Member for Karachuonyo, I respect him so much. He is one of my members and a very active member for that matter. But in terms of relevance, he's talking about CDF. We are talking about National Construction Authority and reference to ACPO, Access to Government Procurement Opportunities. So, Honorable Speaker, that is how I raise in terms of relevance.
I didn't know.
The Honorable Sankok, you are harassing the member for Karachuonyo.
And Mr. Speaker, sir,
is okay.
Honorable.
Just hold on. On the point of order by the Honorable Sankok is out of order. You are quite within your space to discuss the proposed amendments as far as CDF does a lot of procurement and it involves this particular bill would touch it. But the member for Bumula, the Honorable Mabonga, what is out of order? Just hold on, the Honorable Member for Karachuonyo.
Mr. Speaker, I've been in the House and I've been listening to all contributions, and I've just realized that we are repeating the same thing about empowerment, documentation of our youth. And I think the mover, I have just been consulting with him. Just hold on. I've been consulting with him. He says he has even enough information on how we can improve on this bill to assist our young people. I would request, looking at the mood of the House, on Order 95, Mr. Speaker, you call upon the mover to reply. Because we have so many personal bills.
Very well. You are within your rights, the Honorable Mabonga, to call for that. But let the member for Karachuonyo finish, then I will consider your request.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I just wanted to say a word that the Honorable Sankok is a friend of mine, as he said, but normally he is full of harassment, and I'm not the first one that he has rubbed shoulders with, though friendly. Thank you. Just keep your cool. You will get a lot more. Now, what I was saying is that the National Construction Authority, that is really the main issue. Yes, it is true. We are talking
about them in relation to CDF. And CDF has some limitation, a lot of limitation, because we have only two things to do: education and security. And when we are doing a number of things in terms of constructing schools and school classrooms and the rest of them, then NCA comes in. That's why I was talking about these other things. See the connection, my friend, and we'll be together. I'd like to be with you together. So what I was saying is that, yes, we must be able to give capacity to those who are a little disadvantaged. If we do that, we'll be carrying everybody along with us. These people who are disadvantaged need to be helped. And this is why I'm supporting the bill, because the bill is trying to ensure that we help them. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy with what CDF is doing, and I think we all need to increase capacity for CDF to do more than what we are doing now. And by extension, we will be able to do more to the disadvantage than we are doing today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me your time.
Thank you, Member for Karachuonyo. The Honorable Member for Bumula stood in his place and requested that we consider Rule 95. Is it the mood of the House that the mover be called to reply? Yes. Honorable members, is it the mood of the House that the mover be called to reply? Those are with that, as many as of that opinion say aye. Aye. As many as of a contrary opinion say nay. No. The ayes have it. The mover will reply. The Honorable Gikaria.
Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you, and of course, as it has been said, Honorable Speaker, you are a great man. Hopefully, we will meet here in the coming Parliament. Hopefully, you've been a friend for quite a long time, Honorable Speaker. Isipokuwa siku moja tu ndo ulinikosea, lakini nilikubali. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank members who have contributed. And Honorable Speaker, this is how great this House is. Honorable Speaker, in my thinking, I had a very small version of what I was thinking. But from the contribution that I've gotten from members here, Honorable Speaker, it has widened my thinking. It has given me a lot of other input that and most of the members have indicated very clearly that yes, it is one thing to give that waiver, but even after giving that waiver, what next? Again, we go to the aspect of these vulnerable groups not getting enough financing, and how best can we be able to address that? And I want to agree, Honorable Speaker, especially what Mheshimiwa Nduati, the Member of Parliament, Engineer Nduati, Member of Parliament of Gatanga, has indicated. The various ways that were used in the past, that we can go back and be able to give this group an opportunity for them to actualize the 30% procurement from all government institutions. Honorable Speaker, it is true, and the Member of Parliament from Kisauni indicated that cartels have taken over, and they have used this aspect of using youth, but the youth get only peanuts, while the bigger chunk of the money goes with the cartels. Honorable Speaker, it is something that we really need to look into, and more importantly, Honorable Speaker, is what you have spoken, the CDF, that it is an integral devolution unit that we need to really think about it, that if CDF could be used to be able to actualize some of the functions of the national government functions at the grassroots, then there would be so much improvement and so much economic empowerment for that. CDF will go a long way to try, and I totally agree with you that what if the maybe a few people who have, not even members of Parliament, but a few officers within our CDF who have not been using the money properly, is that, but you can see generally 99.9% of CDF has gone into proper, effective use for purposes education. And you can see, much as it's happening, education has thrived. Education is improving on a day-to-day basis. If you look at the documentary of every member of parliament, whenever they are bringing, and we look at them in our pages, you can see the improvement that has come along in terms of safety. I totally agree, and I hope that the President will find favor and be able to accent to this bill so that it can go. And it is true, Honorable Speaker. I personally have started over 50 companies for these groups, but you open up space for them, but they get locked up in some places, either because of the NCA certificate, either because of funding, either because of other, being marginalized. And Honorable Speaker, I think this will go a long way in improving the empowerment and especially open up the unemployment gap. We can be able to reduce this thing if we can be able to encourage the vulnerable groups to be able to do that. I want to thank Honorable Sankok for your contribution, and it is sad, Honorable Speaker, that this bill is before us talking about youth, talking about women and people living with disability. But if you look at this House, has a sizable number of members of parliament who are youthful members of parliament, and they're not here to be able to address, including women. Honorable Speaker, it is sad that not in a single lady has contributed to this. And this affects the women who are by large the bigger number that we are always. It is, I think,
the Honorable Gikaria, the member for Mandera. The member for Mandera, the woman representative for Mandera.
Oh, sure.
The Honorable Safi contributed.
Sorry. Yes, I must have. I must have been thinking about my constituency then. Sorry, Honorable Speaker. A lot of appreciation to the women rep, Marsabit. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to reply. Thank you, Bwana Daktari, my former vice. Both of us, we are.
Very well done, the Honorable Gikaria, and the members who have contributed. Even the Honorable Yusuf, member for Mandera West, I'm sure you would have been supporting this, but I think it's a job well done. Thank you. So I will not undertake the next step in regard to these proposals by the Honorable Gikaria. I'll direct that step to be undertaken when the matter will be set down on the order paper again, and direct that we move on to the next business on the order paper.
Order number 15, the Children Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 46 of 2020, second reading.
The Honorable Kaluma. The Honorable Kaluma again. As per the directions of the Speaker, then that is taken out of the list and it goes to the queue again for consideration later on. The next one on the order paper.
Order number 16, the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Amendment Bill number 3, National Assembly Bill number 49 of 2020, second reading.
The Honorable Gadhiru Mwangi. The Honorable Gadhiru Mwangi, not in the House. I direct that that business be taken out and goes to the queue again from the very last. The next business.
Order number 17, the Pharmacy and Poisons Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 1 of 2021, second reading.
The Honorable Alfred Keter. The Honorable Alfred Keter, not in the House. I direct that that business to be taken out and goes to the very last of the list for consideration of private members' bills. Next business.
Order number 18, the Computer Misuse and Cyber Crimes Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 11 of 2021, second reading.
The Honorable Aden Dwale. The Honorable Aden Dwale is not in the House. I direct that this business to be taken out and to line up from the bottom of private members. Yes, the Honorable Dwale is one of those ardent members of this House. he must be held up for a good cause. But the direction of the Speaker that it will be listed. So we'll move on to the next business.
Order number 19, the Health Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 14 of 2021, second reading.
The Honorable Mwambo Mabonga is in the House. Proceed, the Honorable Mwambo Mabonga. It is your time on the stage.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move that the Health Amendment Bill, National Assembly number 14 of 2021, be read the second time. Mr. Speaker, the main objective of this bill, or the principal objective of this bill, is to amend the Health Act number 21 of 2017, so that to provide the national government and county government a room for consultation through existing intergovernmental relationship, so that they can be able to establish the cancer or regional cancer centers. Mr. Speaker, we will all agree that cancer disease is the third leading disease in the world, and it's causing a lot of problems right now in our villages because most of the patients are very innocent or very green. We go for funerals, Mr. Speaker, and from the history of the sickness, even a layman can conclude that this person has been suffering from cancer. It's important that a lot of the billions is being spent on unnecessary functions and events in this country, and the primary duty for the country or for the government is actually to provide good health for its citizens. And that is important, that if we have the regional cancer centers, the screening will be done early, and the person will know the problem early enough. And by doing the early screening, Mr. Speaker, you will save a lot of costs when it comes to treatment. In developed countries, Mr. Speaker, I'm reliably informed because I was in Malaysia and we were discussing about this thing, this animal called cancer, that whenever this disease is identified early enough before it spreads to other parts of the body, it's a treatable disease. But here in this country, the only proper screening you can get, maybe, it's in 3 places, and majorly in Nairobi. So it's important that the government sets aside the required amount to establish, not necessarily in every county the way I had proposed earlier, but even just to have the regional cancer centers so that they can save many lives that are perishing today. Mr. Speaker, if the screening of cancer is done early, the medics are in this house and they can confirm that there are better chances of such a person surviving. But whenever the screening is done when the person has gone to the very late stage, the chances of survival and the costs that are involved in treatment, Mr. Speaker, is quite a lot. It's also, with the new research, it's indicating that new signs or new cases of cancer are emerging. So with the research at our regional places, we are likely to curb these means in our society. In this bill, Mr. Speaker, the bill also seeks to amend the Principal Act to make it an offense for a person in charge of a public health facility to demand a permit or demands payment in advance or as a precondition in order to provide medical services. Mr. Speaker, I know it's worldwide tradition that all medical doctors take an oath to save life. And at times, this one I'm not just saying, I have seen many cases because there are small payments that are required, even when the person cannot afford the payment. And Mr. Speaker, it has been ruled, even in the courts, it's in the Constitution, but we are here to make sure that we reinforce what is in the Constitution. We reinforce and make sure that those people who have been tasked to be in charge of our health facilities, priority number one should be to save life. Mr. Speaker, I am sure if you walk in public hospitals, there are people who die even at the waiting, at the reception. And because there is no clear punishment that is attached to some of these sections in the Constitution, people take advantage to misuse people in such a public facilities. Mr. Speaker, this bill further proposes that the Principal Act should be amended to provide a punishment, make it an offense for any person in public health facilities to detain a deceased body or person as means of enforcing settlement of any outstanding bills. Mr. Speaker, I have a concern. I come from a rural constituency where, on a daily basis, even where I'm seated here, I have just sent money, and of course it can't be enough to facilitate a dead body from a public morgue to can be buried. I attended a funeral, Mr. Speaker, where a person had a quarter acre of land, and that person is forced even to sell that piece of land to secure a dead body to come and conduct a decent send-off. Mr. Speaker, I find it's just a moral duty. And we are just confirming again the obvious here, because the courts have ruled that it's illegal to retain a dead person. If, Mr. Speaker, we can find other mechanisms of settling such cases and release the person, be buried, it will save a lot of agony from many families. Mr. Speaker, even if you retain a dead body for years, that dead body cannot be converted into a property to be sold so that you settle the bills that probably you are looking for. And in most cases, Mr. Speaker, you realize that even, especially if a person who has passed on is a person in charge of almost all properties, it will be very difficult for such a person to enforce whatever payment that is required. It's the responsibility of the government to ensure that we get some funds. If not, in the meantime, we agree with the courts that a dead body, once a person passes on and the family is ready to do the burial, the body is released to the family and other mechanisms are put in place. That should be in consultation with the national government and still with the county government. This bill further seeks to amend the Principal Act, Mr. Speaker, to provide some regulations on levying charges for the practice of conventional medicine. Mr. Speaker, I know you come from a rural constituency just like mine. There are notorious civil servants who have been employed in medical facilities. They will find a way of ensuring that the medicine are not in the hospitals or in those clinics in the rurals, and they will direct patients at specific chemists or a store to buy medicine. And when you move from one shop to another, same medicine, if it's Panadol, the price is different. Is there a way, Mr. Speaker, we can regulate this so that the common mwananchi, we are talking of empowering people at the lowest point or lowest level of the pyramid. I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, and I don't need to label on this, that I'm sure you come from a constituency where a person cannot even afford to buy Panadols. But a Panadol in one shop is 5 shillings, or 10, or 20, but you can go to the next, just in the nearby, probably where you've been referred, and you realize that the same medicine is costing almost 100 shillings. We must find a way of having this balance. Mr. Speaker, this bill does not in any way delegate legislative powers, neither does it limit fundamental rights and freedoms of any citizen. Mr. Speaker, the bill concerns county government in terms of Article 110(1) of the Constitution as it affects the functions and powers of the county government as set under Part 2 of the 4th Schedule to the Constitution. And I wish also to bring to your attention, Mr. Speaker, that the enactment of this bill shall definitely occasion additional expenditure of public funds. I wish also, Mr. Speaker, however, even if money is going to be involved in this bill, in Section 5 of number 21 of 2017, I propose the following amendments, Mr. Speaker, that every person has the right to the highest attainable standard of health, which shall include progressive access for provision of promotive, preventive, curative, palliative, or even rehabilitative services. It's in the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, and it's the responsibility of every government to ensure that its citizens or her citizens enjoy this kind of benefits in all our health facilities. Mr. Speaker, we should not be waiting things to become an emergency so that we act. I am sure it's only in this country, Mr. Speaker, if I may refer to what has been just happening in this country, and it's still ongoing, that up to now, the government or the parliament has to discuss the CAs of energy to come and address the nation. Such are things that are also waiting at some point for them to become an emergency so that they come with long statements to address the nation. It's important that we put some medication in place so that we cap these kind of problems that many citizens are going through at the moment. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, every person shall have the right to be treated with dignity, respect, and have their privacy respected in accordance with the Constitution and this Act. And you know, Mr. Speaker, when we talk of dignity, you and I probably will have insurance covers that can take us to some places where common mwananchi is not able to reach. They are talking of national insurance coverage. But today you go in the village and you'll be surprised. Some of those cards have been given to our old mamas in the village and old men in the village who don't know even how to use them, or when they go for medication in any facility, you will realize that those cards have no money. And secondly, you will be told you are given today a card, and even before the month elapses, before you use it, it has already expired. I have those similar cases, and I think it's just conmanship in the system of the government, and we must bring that to an end. The nation and the county government shall ensure the provision of free and compulsory vaccination of our children under the age of 5. Mr. Speaker, when I say of these things, they are in the Constitution, but how best can we reinforce this? Because if you go back in those clinics in your village, you realize that those people who are in charge of those health facilities, they're asking for some funds. And that is why some of our children are dying at very young stage, young, early age, because they have not been given the proper attention that is required. Our children should be, or our ladies, the mothers in the house, the maternity care should be provided free at all our medical facilities, especially when it comes to public facilities. For the purpose of implementing subsection 3, Mr. Speaker, the national government shall, in consultation with the respective county government, to provide funds for the county government to implement the amendments that I've just proposed. Mr. Speaker, in section 7 of number 21 of 2017, I propose to amend that every person has the right to medical emergency treatment. Mr. Speaker, we have medical facilities, whether private or public. Walk to emergency areas of our public hospitals to begin with, or even private health facilities. Is there a way, Mr. Speaker, we can ensure accidents even happen in this country? You can run. One time I had a patient who was very close to me, Mr. Speaker, and I don't want even to mention the hospital. I walked in one of big hospital, and it was on a Sunday, Mr. Speaker. Their machines were not working, so my ATM could not work. But interestingly, they were demanding payments before they attend to my patient. And I almost lost him at that very point. It's in the law. And we want to reinforce this, that anybody who denies a person and refuses deliberately to stabilize a patient and make arrangements for the referral commits an offense. And I'll be making those proposals on the kind of offense and probably the recommendation and the input of this House. I will appreciate if we get it right and ensure that our public hospitals, our medical officers, who are doing maybe a lot of work, but you will go even right at the reception, you are handled by subordinate staff, they may not understand even the condition of a patient, and you end up losing life. Mr. Speaker, for the purpose of this section, emergency medical treatment shall include the following proposals: pre-hospital care, stabilizing health status of an individual, or arranging for the referral in case where the health provider of the first call does not have facility or capacity to stabilize the health status of a victim. Mr. Speaker, I propose that any medical institution that fails to provide emergency medical treatment while having ability to do so commits an offense and is liable upon conviction to a fine not exceeding 3 million Kenya shillings. Mr. Speaker, those amendments, if they're captured, I'm sure we will provide just the very basic of what the citizen of this country requires most. I am sure even if we build good roads, we build good schools, if we have a sick nation, who will use these good facilities? We must have proper medical care for all citizens in this country, Mr. Speaker, for us to be proud as Kenyans. With those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I beg to move. I request my good friend, Dr. Robert Bokose, member for Endebess, to second.
The Honorable Bokose.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to second this very important bill, the Health Amendment Bill 2021 by Honorable Mwambu Mabonga. This is a very important amendment, and basing on what is presented, Honorable Speaker, it's a bill that intends to establish regional cancer treatment centers. When we talk of regional, we mean where you have the country divided into various regions. Apparently, we already have a model that is working for the blood transfusion, where we have regional blood transfusion centers within Nakuru, Eldoret, Kisumu, Nyeri, Embu, Nairobi, Mombasa, and all those other, Nakuru and all those other places. This is what we call regional. And that, in a way, it devolves, it makes it easier and accessible for the sick to access health care. So by establishing this regional and providing them with the necessary support, because one of the biggest challenges that we face as a country after health was devolved is how its implementation, because apparently when we were developing this health care, the transitional authority never did a proper costing of the default functions, because the Constitution talks of the functions and the funds must be developed in commensurate, such that when you develop a certain function, it must be followed by funds. So one of the biggest challenges that we need to look back as a country is if we are going to have these regional centers for cancer treatment centers, because apparently cancer has become one of the biggest challenges in our modern days. People are being taken to India, and by the time they are being taken to India, somebody is taken at advanced stage, stage 3, stage 4 of the disease. That means this person, if we had early diagnosis and treatment, the person would have gotten better. Because you hear of cases where people have been diagnosed and have lived their full life. A case in mind is the late Reverend Desmond Tutu. Desmond Tutu was diagnosed with cancer at the age of around 70 and is lived up to around 105 years and died. So it means once you do early diagnosis, then these people can get proper treatment and the disease cannot progress. We have cases of our own citizens who have confessed to have cancer at an early stage, and you find them now, they are leading a normal life because it was diagnosed early, they had access to proper treatment, best facilities, and that way they are able to be taken care of. So by this bill saying we need to have regional development centers, I think it will also be very important that those regional facilities must have good facilities. When we have a regional cancer center, we must provide expertise in terms of human resource. We must provide equipment for them to make early diagnosis and treatment. We must provide medicines so that this is done in a proper way. The same bill amendment talks of where you have in consultation with the county, in consultation with the healthcare practitioners and the relevant statutory bodies, where you need to do, where you are going to levying of charges on the practice of conventional medicine in consultation with the relevant statutory bodies and stakeholders. We must be able to consult both the doctors, both the patients, both those who are involved in providing this health care in terms of how much do we charge for certain services. For example, if we must have uniformity in charges, because one of the biggest challenges is that when somebody goes to some of the private hospitals, the charges that are made there are very exorbitant, while the same treatment being offered in a government facility or in another facility charges less. For example, you'll find that somebody is taken to, you hear somebody was in ICU in one of the hospitals and was charged certain millions of money, when the same another person who was in another facility was charged less than that. So we need to have, at least if there is going to be variation, it must not be exorbitant. It must not be a very big variation in terms of charges. So we must have, at least in conventional medicine, you know, when we talk of conventional medicine, we are differentiating. This is the modern traditional medicine. We are differentiating it from the herbalists, because herbalists can charge any other figure, and whatever they give you, they might even be giving you placebos. That is, giving you placebos means giving you something that might not just to treat you psychologically. But in terms of practice for conventional medicine, we need to have uniformity. If somebody is removed an appendix in Nairobi Hospital and Kenyatta National Hospital, it should not be a very big difference. It should be within a small variation that allows everybody to have affordable health care. The other issue important is somebody should not pay a deposit before that person is treated. Let the person be treated, then after that look for the money. If this person even dies, why do we have to detain the body that these people to go and look for money, especially in public facilities? If you are working in a public facility, the public facility has been built with taxpayers' money. The trucks you are using are taxpayers' money. The staff who are working there are paid salaries by taxpayers' money. Why would you detain a body that until they bring the money to pay for the medical expenses is when you release that body? I think this bill should criminalize that kind of practice, such that anybody, you are a public officer working in a government institution, in a public facility, then you are detaining a body that people to go and look for money. You should be surcharged, you should even be dismissed from that position because you are not worth it. Anybody working in government facility, you should not demand for this person to pay a deposit before the person is attended to. Admit the patient, let the patient start getting treatment, then the relatives or the persons can look for the money to pay for that treatment. So I think what Honorable Mwambu Mabonga has done is actually is responding. This bill, to me, I looked at it and said, Mwambu Mabonga is responding to his constituents, but not just his constituents alone, but all of us, our constituents, even the constituents of Endebess, my people in Endebess and anywhere. They would want, even, Honorable Speaker, your people of your constituency, they would want to go to the hospital and be treated and then look for money to pay for it. They should not have a situation where a body is detained that people to go and look for money. I think that, to me, is a good bill. It's a bill that responds to the wishes of many Kenyans, and I hope that this House will support it. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I second.
Honorable members, allow me to propose the question that the Health Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 14 of 2021 be now read a second time. The Honorable Member for Bumula, the Honorable Mabonga. It is true that the courts have decreed that there is no property in a dead body in this country. But the way we go about this keeps me worried, because the troubles that you face from your constituents are the same ones that I face. And we seem to have more value in the dead than even the living, because the colossal sums of money we expend on the death industry is amazing. If we deploy that money to other things, we would really, but that is the debate. So the first go at this will be by the Honorable Mboy, member for Katian.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I also rise to support this motion by the Honorable Mabonga, and first I would like to thank him for coming up with a great motion. One of the responsibilities that members of Parliament have is to legislate, and coming up with such great amendments to the Health Act is really commendable, because really what he's done is he's representing his people by dealing with the issues of concern to them, and at the same time he's legislating by making amendments to the law. So that's excellent. And this is a kind of level of leadership that this country requires, people that react to the problems of the nation, and not only do they react, but they provide solutions, whether legislative or otherwise, not just complaining. I listened to him, Mr. Speaker. He didn't complain, he didn't lament. He talked about real issues, and he provided solutions through the legislation. And if all of us could be operating like that, all the way from the president to the deputy, to members of parliament, to governors, this country would be far. We would not be continuously complaining out there in the streets about the things that are going wrong. Mr. Speaker, upon independence, our forefathers set out to fight. They gave 3 fights that they had to deal with. The first one was ignorance, then the poverty, and then the issue of disease. Now, the matter of disease is what we are dealing with. And Mr. Speaker, this problem has continued to be a major problem affecting Kenyans. And in fact, has even become worse than when we got independence, because the kind of quality or the types of diseases that we have now have advanced, have metamorphosed. There are many, many more. Maybe because of the diets, probably because of the lifestyle, because, you know, there's people now are living luxurious lifestyles, which obviously are prone to major lifestyle diseases. So really, there is a bigger problem of healthcare. And obviously, that is the reason why, Mr. Speaker, you notice that in our Constitution 2010, this issue of health was addressed. In the Bill of Rights, it provides, the Constitution provides that everyone has a right to proper medical care. And Mr. Speaker, that basically then means that we have to be able to access the care, and it has to be of quality so that people can live healthy lives. And Mr. Speaker, that therefore means that what he's proposing about setting up cancer centers in every region really does, you know, completely answers to that question of providing proper medical care for our people. So I think it's a very good proposal. I've listened to the second, and he says that not only do we require that these centers be set up, but they have to be properly manned, they have to be properly equipped. Because there's one thing, you can set up, you can put up the buildings, and because if we just say it's a center, we'll put up the buildings and then suddenly nothing happens there. Mr. Speaker, if you go to our constituencies, you notice that a lot of members of parliament, before we were stopped from dealing with healthcare, had put up dispensaries. So those dispensaries are still there. They're just buildings. There are no doctors, there's no equipment, there's no medicine, and there's no treatment that takes place there. But the people still, you know, they still call them hospitals. So we need to come up with the proper cancer centers that are properly equipped, properly manned, and that are going to be functional. In fact, we must legislate the exact standards so that we ensure that we don't just put up buildings in order to accept what has been said. Mr. Speaker, again, the Constitution provides that no one should be denied emergency medical treatment for whatever reasons. And I guess that is to do with the first aid. But I think from the proposal I have heard, the honorable member is purporting or proposing that it shouldn't just be, you know, emergency. It should be, no one should be denied medical treatment. I think that's what he's trying to talk about. And maybe we need to figure out, is it really, is it really possible? Maybe on private hospitals it might be difficult to enforce. But on public hospitals, no one should be asked to make a payment before they are treated. Honestly, I have heard the analysis that all these doctors are paid by taxpayers, or the medicine is bought by us. So why would anyone go to hospital and be told to make a payment before they get treatment? I think it makes sense what he's proposing so that Kenyans can be able to get proper value. And Mr. Speaker, the current position where we are coming up with universal health care and trying to use NHIF to pay for those people that can afford to pay for their medical care from their salaries, and those that cannot, who are called indigents, are supposed to be paid for. Maybe that will go a long way in ensuring that the problem he's trying to address is sorted out, because going forward, we must ensure that our people are properly dealt with. I like the penalties he's proposing, and in fact, maybe if we had a way of making them even more hefty, I would propose that we increase the penalties. Because this is the problem that we face. People are sick, they are treated, they get better. And you know, people don't leave the hospital when they are completely well. They leave a hospital and they're given bed rest at home. And then a doctor says that now you cannot go because you have a bill of 50,000, 20,000, 10,000, 5,000, and they're detained. So you turn people who are sick into prisoners. What that does is that if the problem was the problem was a health care issue, now it becomes now a mental issue. Because can you imagine the anguish of struggling with a medical condition in the body, and you have to figure out where to get money? That again becomes a problem, because now it starts affecting the mind. And Mr. Speaker, you've seen cases where people go and smuggle their loved ones from hospitals because of these kind of things. We need to figure out how do we protect the hospitals, and how then do we also protect the patients. So in that bit, I support that anyone who's found culpable should be punished severely. But we also must figure out how do we protect the hospital so that people don't go in, refuse to make any payments, get treatment, and then walk out because the law says that they don't have to pay. we need to marry these proposals with the NHIF bill so that we are sure that whatever happens in every hospital is safe for Kenyans. And there's also, we also legislate for prosperity. You saw in this house we came up with a proposal that we cushion health, whatever, not health, but oil marketers. We said we'll come up with some money that we'll put aside from the levies, and then we can cushion oil marketers. Suddenly, it has become a problem because we realize it is not sustainable. In the next 1 or 2 months, if the prices of oil keep going up, it will be impossible to be able to cushion the prices, and suddenly Kenyans will have to pay much more on pump prices for fuel. So clearly, when we come up with legislation, let us think far ahead. Let us look at the worst case scenario so that we don't come up with legislation and then it becomes impossible to implement. I also am concerned because there's also the issue of detaining dead bodies. And I like the analysis when they say that, the dead body has no value. And Mr. Speaker, you actually did mention that, the Africans have a way of valuing dead bodies. In fact, some communities, they value them more when they are dead than when they are alive. I've gone to funerals, you find somebody has been dressed up in a brand new suit, brand new shoes, brand new socks, even brand new underwear. But when they were alive, the family never even gave them food to eat. They couldn't put food on the table. I mean, that's a reality. And you've also seen places where somebody passes on and they rush to the rural home and put up a house so that they can bury them where there is a house next door. And this person had nowhere to go to call home before. So I think it's a fact that Africans have an issue with the issue of dead bodies. So let us find a way of protecting them because those are our voters. So how do we protect them? Once the person is deceased, detaining them becomes a problem because eventually, Mr. Speaker, these bodies are actually disposed in mass graves. So why keep it and then deny the family, then throw the body out eventually? Let's come up with a way by which we can release the bodies for decent burial so that we can also appease the family. And if there's a debt, just like any other debt, we can pursue that debt going into the future. But can you imagine collateral for a loan in the bank is a dead body? Honestly, that is incredible, Mr. Speaker. So we need to find a way of figuring out how do we get this money paid and what can be written off, because some of these, especially in these government hospitals, some of this is our own money. How can we just write it off so that we do not have to struggle? These members will tell you, and the member has confirmed here and confessed, he has sent money. I want to tell him he shouldn't say that unanswered, because right now is not the time to send any money, because we've just been told by the law not to contribute. After the elections, we can continue sending. For now, be careful not to be seen to be sending money, because that might be construed to mean that you are inducing a voter to support you. But other than that, it is important to note that this is something we need to figure out and sort out once and for all. And I support the very, very hefty penalties for all these problems. Otherwise, with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support and I thank the mover.
The Honorable Mbowe, you are now asking the Honorable Mabonga, but how is he going to induce a dead body to vote for him? It's just helping. And this is our problem, really. I'm sure all these members here, apart from probably the Honorable Yusuf Haji, who doesn't have these problems of contributing to funerals. But I'm sure that any member here who does not come from probably the Muslim constituency, there is no weekend you will not part with at least some reasonable hefty sum of money for these purposes. And the sooner we get out of it, I think we need to relook at the whole philosophy of life and the dead, so that we divest ourselves from that and give a decent burial, but we should not spend too much in that process. The Honorable Yusuf Haji, I will give you space before the Honorable Sankuk, because we cut you out.
Thank you.
The member for Imenti, you are out of order. The Honorable member for Imenti, you are out of order. You have not even keyed in. The Honorable member for Imenti. The Honorable member for Imenti. The Honorable member for Imenti.
Okay, thank you so much.
Just hold on, the Honorable Haji.
Thank you so much, Speaker.
Just hold on, the Honorable Haji. We will not allow this. The Honorable Member for Imenti, I will do this just once. Kindly just approach the Speaker's bench here. Please do. Proceed, Member for Mandera West.
Thank you so much, Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And I also sincerely thank the mover of this amendment that it is very timely and it is the real issue that this country requires today. Cancer is a killer disease, like few other diseases, but its earlier detection is normally not there. Just because the facilities are not well spread all over the constituencies, all over the county, all over the country, and hence to detect whether a patient is suffering from cancer at early stage is the biggest problem. So by this suggestion that we have cancer centers in various places, regional or even up to constituency level, that will help cancer patients to be detected early, and once it's detected early, we are assured that that patient can be attended to properly and can survive. So early detection is very important, and hence I support the idea of having cancer centers spread all over the country, maybe possibly up to constituency level. Cancer is a very expensive disease, normally because it is detected when it's too late, and hence it becomes very expensive indeed. I also suggest that in this amendment that every cancer patient who is not insured, who does not have a medical insurance, can be insured so that the government can insure. These are very few people. Cancer patients are not very many indeed. Some of them are already insured through the insurance systems, but the few which are not insured, I suggest that the government insures them. It will not be very expensive, and in that way, it will be, many patients will be able to get when it comes to dead bodies being retained, I think the hospitals are not fair by retaining dead bodies. This is because when a patient is coming to hospital, he or she has no intention to die there to become a dead body. The intention is to get treated, to get cured, and to go home. And diseases doesn't give notice. You can fall sick beyond midnight, at midnight. You did not prepare yesterday that tomorrow you'll be sick and you have to have some money ready somewhere. And the following day you go to hospital, you are not prepared, and unfortunately the person dies, and then the body is retained. That is very, very unfortunate situations, as diseases don't give notices, and hence dead bodies should not be retained. In my culture, or the Muslim culture, dead bodies are disposed immediately. Immediately they die. Immediately they die. And dead bodies, you don't have to clothe them with very expensive clothes. You put a white cloth like the one I'm putting on, wrap the body. Whether that person was a minister, whether he was a rich person, whether he or she was a poor person, once you are dead, dead body is a dead body, and it has to be disposed immediately at the least cost, which is just putting a piece of white cloth around and dispose it immediately. If every Kenyan could have followed that culture, of course culture takes time to adapt it, but since already your neighbor is practicing, and it's a very good culture, why don't you slowly start adopting it? You don't have to buy shoes, watch, and other expensive ornaments for a dead body. He or she doesn't need it at all. And hence, I stand to support this motion, and it is very timely, and it is not for only his constituents. It is for the whole of Kenyans, and if it goes through, Mheshimiwa has contributed to the welfare of all Kenyans. Thank you so much.
Member for Mandera, probably the watches are for the dead to keep time with their fate elsewhere. The Honorable Dawood, it is true you've been here, and I have noticed that you have been sitting there. But the gadget you are using definitely was not working, and that is why you are not caught the eye of the speaker. But you have been here, and it is noted, and I give you this opportunity now to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I apologize, but the fault was not mine because I wanted to contribute to the national construction as well, and I waited until Mheshimiwa Mabonga asked for it to be closed. And the second time, I'm wondering, when I've been here, people have come after me and contributing. But I thank you for giving me this space, and I want to second this bill by Mheshimiwa Mabonga. And I think this is a very timely bill in the sense that only yesterday is when I was paying for one lady who has been detained in hospital. And I think we need to even do a change in this bill where it is not just, we are not just criminalizing people who have died, but people who have got bills and they are being retained in hospital against their will because they cannot pay off the bills. Mr. Speaker, it is very important that we get to know how the people who cannot afford to go to private hospitals but have to go, and then they cannot even pay a bill of 20,000, and then they are retained in hospital for long. And Mr. Speaker, when that happens, the bill from 20,000 goes up to 40,000, and which initially they could not even pay 20,000. How will they go and pay 40,000? So, Mr. Speaker, I would wish Mheshimiwa Mabonga, when it comes, we can do a few changes where we put not just admission to public hospitals, but even the bills, when they are there, when they are ready to go home, they can go home. Because, Mr. Speaker, if they have been treated, what is the need of them being retained in hospital? What purpose will it serve? The second one is, Mr. Speaker, there is a body which has been lying at Kenyatta National Hospital. We have, the people of the village have been unable, were unable to bury the person for 1 month, and they had to delay until they came to me, and then we worked out and we got the body home so that we could bury it. But, Mr. Speaker, that gives a lot of anguish to the people who are bereaved. And, you know, instead of mourning, they are now running around looking how are they going to sell their cows, their goats, or their parcel of land, or take money from a Shylock, which will come to hinder them in future. So, Mr. Speaker, it is very, very important. This bill is very important. We need, even though, like you have mentioned earlier, that there is a court ruling that bodies should be not kept in hospitals, but, Mr. Speaker, the hospitals still keep those bodies. Mr. Speaker, regarding the Cancer Regional Center, Mr. Speaker, in the last Parliament, I had brought a motion to pass ICU units together with blood donor units in each and every constituency. But up to date, the government has not done anything about it. But I hope with this bill, and if it is signed, we have those regional centers. We should not just have regional centers, we should have it up to, down to the constituency level, because, and then even if we get those regional centers, let us have oncologists on call. we have the proper machinery, the one which is here at Kenyatta University Hospital, something like that in each and every regional center. Mr. Speaker, cancer is a scourge, especially in Meru County, where most of the patients who go to Kenyatta Hospital, 25% of the patients who are at Kenyatta come from Meru County. And that informed my decision to make a clinic for Meru Hospice, where I was a patron a couple of years back. And I did establish for them hospice with my own money, not with CDF. And we had even yesterday a cancer program yesterday in the county. And the governor is trying, together with the previous governor, C.S. Munya, and Governor Kiraito, they tried to establish a cancer center where South Koreans are supposed to be coming and installing machinery. But Mr. Speaker, we need to go further because cancer treatment is very, very expensive, and the government needs to come up, not just to establish those cancer centers. We need to subsidize the costs because a lot of poor people cannot pay the costs which are charged for cancer treatment. And Mr. Speaker, if we do not do that, then we will not be doing much. And then we need to equip each and every regional center, or if it is county centers, because otherwise it will be very far if it is a regional center, where to put it when we have already devolved into counties, because that is what is there. If it is put, let's say, for Eastern Regional Center, and that would be Embu, how will it serve the whole of Eastern Province? That would not work at all, Mr. Speaker. So it needs to go down to devolved units, which are the counties, because that's what needs to be done. Mr. Speaker, the last one, the amendment Mheshimiwa Mabonga has talked about, is the fare charges. And it is true, like Honorable Pokose has said, that the differences between a public hospital and a private hospital are like day and night. And some of the facilities, because most times public hospitals machinery have broken down, so people do not have a choice. They have to go to a private hospital, and when they go to a private hospital, the costs are prohibitive. So, Mr. Speaker, we should have, I don't know if the bill would put it there in the third reading, whether we can put a limit of between 10 and 20% above the charges, or the charges are printed through regulations of each and every service which is offered by a public hospital or a private hospital or a medical facility, so that people know what they are, and the charter is there. The charges are on a board, so people know what they are supposed to be paying. Because, Mr. Speaker, that is one issue which we need to, charges need to be put on a board so somebody does not get hijacked when they reach there and they do not have that kind of money. Mr. Speaker, the other thing which we need as Parliament, hopefully in the next session, we need to move the health workers to a health commission, because we have an issue with health workers who are under the county government, and we need to now retake the burden of health workers, because what is happening at the moment, Mr. Speaker, many counties cannot handle the health workers, and there are normally a lot of strikes. So we need to do something like what TSC is. The same way we need to do a health service commission, which will take account of all the health workers' needs, because if we do not do that, then we are falling apart. Mr. Speaker, we need even to think which hospitals, if they are level 5 and above, they need to go back to the national government, because that is how we can probably make the services much better. Not that they are not good, but some hospitals are falling apart. The services offered are mediocre, and we cannot do with that. There are many dispensaries in our counties which do not have hospitals, which do not have personnel. We need personnel for those dispensaries, because there is no point in establishing a dispensary if the personnel and the medicines are not there. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to join my colleagues in congratulating Honorable Mwabonga. And with those few points, I think we need to make sure we can always put a bill and a law in place, but implementation is the main issue. We need to get implementation up to notch, that people who are retaining bodies should not, because they will not get anything out of that body. And by retaining it, you're adding expenses of mortuary expenses and all that. So we need to see how we can do, and admission into hospitals should be free and not chargeable before entry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I appreciate.
The member for North Imende, very good contribution. It gives us a chance to reconsider the structure of our devolution and our constitution. Probably some of these services need to be clustered, some of these counties need to be clustered, because some of this equipment that needs to be set up is quite expensive, and we may not be able to do it across the county, the 47 counties at once. So we need to think about how to reach people in some of this. But the people who are in charge, the staff that are in charge of the gadgets in the house, should up their game so that members, when they key in, it is true that they've keyed in. The Honorable Dawood has been here with this particular speaker from 9:30, and I was wondering whether today he just wanted to keep the speaker company and not to speak. But all is well that ends well. The Honorable Koi Waluke, member for Sirisia. The Honorable Sankok, just hold on. Yes, you have also been with me here, but let us give the Honorable Waluke a chance.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me chance. And I rise to support this bill, Mr. Speaker. It is timely, and if as a House we pass it, Mr. Speaker, it is going to help this country. Mr. Speaker, there are people, poor families, Mr. Speaker, in this country who suffer, but they don't get proper medical care in this country, Mr. Speaker, and due to lack of resources or finance, because they come from poor families, Mr. Speaker. And this bill, Mr. Speaker, if we pass, it is considering so many issues that it can solve for us in this country, Mr. Speaker, as a nation. Mr. Speaker, cancer is the main killer. These days, Mr. Speaker, I don't know, because of the food that we are eating, because you get very many people are suffering from cancer, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, it is one of the most expensive diseases, Mr. Speaker, that it's really killing people. Mr. Speaker, the health workers in this country, Mr. Speaker, they are human beings like anybody, any other human being, Mr. Speaker, but some are inconsiderate, Mr. Speaker, due to they are after money, especially, let's say, in private hospitals. The other day, Mr. Speaker, a month ago, we raised money to pay the bill for one of our colleagues, our colleague who died, the former MP for Mount Elgon, which the hospital refused that the bill was 5 million shillings. Unless it was paid, the body of Honorable Sarut was not to be moved home for burial. And remember, Mr. Speaker, if he was not a former MP, or because many of us participated in raising money to pay for the body of Honorable Sarut to go home. Mr. Speaker, this bill is going to solve problems like this one. To refuse on a dead body that until fees is raised. Mr. Speaker, this is not fair. Let the honorable members of this House pass this bill, although it is going to be a problem for the hospitals also, claim that they have treated the patient and he has died and they are supposed to be paid. But some of them, Honorable Speaker, are too expensive. And the government also, Mr. Speaker, should take care of these medical bills, especially the NHIF. There are people who cannot afford, even at home there, who cannot afford even five shillings. There are people even who cannot afford even a meal. And because he's a human being and he's sick and he wants treatment, Mr. Speaker, this person should be taken as a human being. And even if he doesn't have the NHIF card, the government should come in. Because finally, this person, Mr. Speaker, if he or she will die, the hospital will still refuse to release the body for this patient, Mr. Speaker. So this bill, Mr. Speaker, I urge the House that we pass this bill so that it can help us. And the people who are suffering in this country, Mr. Speaker, on the patients and also on these dead bodies are us, the members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, because these are our people, these are our voters. If somebody dies, Mr. Speaker, the family, every day, they will call you, they call me, that, look, somebody has died and we need help. So what will you do? Is to pay, to assist them paying either for the dead body or for the patient, Mr. Speaker. So this bill, Mr. Speaker, has come at the right time. And as a House, Mr. Speaker, we need to consider, we need to pass it so that we give the big burden to the government to handle this, this issue of hospital bills, for dead and for the patient, Mr. Speaker. So it is timely, and I support this bill, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The Honorable Sankok. But you should know that sometimes I will give not necessarily the person who's on top.
I know.
Sometimes there are many other considerations. But have a go at it, Honorable Sankok.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. You know, Honorable Speaker, we were dealing with the issue of the MP, Dawood, whose equipments were not working. And it was not your mistake, Honorable Speaker, because there is no way you can know that it was not working. I wish he was here, because I normally call him MMN. I will tell you the meaning when we are alone. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this very important bill, which have come at very right time. Cancer is a disease that eats not only our flesh, blood, and bones, but also eat our resources at a rate that we can only equate with the appetite of broiler's chicken. Honorable Speaker, and I would like to congratulate Honorable Mwamba Mabonga from Bumula for bringing this, is it Mwambu Mabonga, for bringing this very important bill to this House. And it will really sort out so many issues, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, cancer, unlike other diseases that are caused by organisms that are foreign, like viruses, bacteria, and fungi, cancer is actually our own body cells that have behaved abnormally and multiply uncontrollably and destroy other body tissues, Honorable Speaker. So dealing with it require a lot of medical expertise, because you have to know when to kill your own body cells that are abnormal and those that are normal, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, that is why when you talk of chemotherapy or radiotherapy, it really have a lot of effect and side effect to our bodies, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, at the same time, Kenyans are one disease away from poverty. And many families in Kenya are one patient cancer away from becoming destitute, Honorable Speaker, because of the skyrocketing cost of treatment in Kenya. Therefore, when this bill is brought for us to be able, first of all, to have ways of controlling these skyrocketing medical bills, how can we come in? Should we come in through universal health care, NHIF, so that we can be able to cushion our poor families? Because some of us who are privileged to be members of parliament, members of county assembly, and top civil servants can access best medical services and can be able to pay for those medical services. But remember, also our constituents and our voters are also human beings with human feelings, Honorable Speaker, and they are suffering down there because they cannot afford. Most of them have lost their lives. Most of them have lost their loved ones simply because they are not accessible to proper medical care. Honorable Speaker, it will also beat logics that a patient must pay before they are admitted, before they are treated. And you know, a medical condition is an emergency. You can faint while you are in this house, Honorable Speaker. You may have money, but not in your pocket. You may have money, but in assets. You need to dispose those assets to be able to pay. But when you are told you can die fast as you wait for payment, when you are told we cannot treat you until you dispose those assets or you get the money, Honorable Speaker, it beats logics and it beats morality and all known medical oaths, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, when clause, I think 3 subclause 4 proposes a 3 million fine for any medical practitioner or any doctor who refuses to treat a patient until they pay, then I think we support that one, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, these issues of our health sector, where did the rain start beating us? Honorable Speaker, I was a student leader in the University of Nairobi during the introduction of parallel degree program. And I remember I was suspended, I was jailed, I was tortured because I said, when you charge your potential workers while training them, they will come and pass that fee to the common mwananchi. Honorable Speaker, I remember complaining, even in, I think it was KTN talk show, that you cannot have an A without money becoming a C in terms of grade, and grade C topped with money becoming an A. Because when they introduced parallel degree program, when you had an A, but fortunately enough you have money, that is approximately 4 million Kenya shillings, then you can train to be a doctor. What will happen with this doctor who have trained using 4 million Kenya shillings? They will need return in their investment. That is what we are witnessing currently, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, again, you end up having doctors who are half-baked because they paid for their degree, they got their degree, but are they the best? Are they knowledgeable enough, Honorable Speaker? That is what we are witnessing, and that is why we have medical tourism to India. And if you talk about India, there is no university in India that is better in the training of doctors than Nairobi University in terms of ranking, Honorable Speaker. But we go there because then their health system is mainstream. So, Honorable Speaker, we have also to go further and deal with the issue of training of medical personnel.
Honorable Speaker, because I saw it coming, and I knew one day I will be vindicated that training, not only medical staff, but also engineers and architects, and charging them while training them, we will end up in this quagmire, Honorable Speaker. So many buildings are collapsing under the hands of half-baked engineers and architects. You see medical misdiagnosis, courtesy of the parallel degree program. So apart from what Honorable Mabonga have proposed, we will also probably include the issue of NHIF, include the issue of training, and lastly, include the issue of mainstreaming health sector. As Honorable Dawood had proposed, we should have a health service commission, which will be dealing with our health sector, Honorable Speaker, just like PSC. We should also rethink the issue of devolving the whole health sector. We may rethink of having health sector being a national government function, because we have seen in counties it has failed. They have ended up having so many buildings without personnel, without the requisite equipment, Honorable Speaker. So, Honorable Speaker, with those very many remarks, I do support and hope that the House will fast track and pass this bill, and the implementation part of it to be seen to the latter, so that we start benefiting from such a very progressive bill from the Honorable Member of Bumula. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Wanyonyi Kevin, Member for Kwanza.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the chance. First of all, I want to thank Honorable Mwambu for coming up with this very important bill, amendment bill. First and foremost, I think the main objective of this, Mr. Speaker, so we don't lose sight of it, is to establish the regional treatment centers so that can be able to detect the killer disease, which today is the biggest problem in this country. And therefore, I think it's good that we have this particular one, and I hope we'll be able to pass in a good time so that can be able to set up the regional centers with enough facilities to be able to detect this particular monster, which, as many have said, is the main killer of our people. Then, of course, the facilities should be adequate, as we all are saying. And, of course, early detection of this particular cancer, Mr. Speaker, normally, if it's detected in the first stage or second stage, it's treatable. But if it goes beyond that, it becomes a problem. And therefore, I think it's good to have the centers near to the people so that you don't have to travel all the way from Western Kenya or Northeastern to come to Nairobi to check whether or not we have that facility. And therefore, I think it's a very good bill, and I hope we'll pass it in good time to be able to establish the main centers for the same. And of course, the only other thing that has been mentioned, and I agree with the other members who have said the same, is demanding the payment before such a person is actually diagnosed.
The Honorable Wanyonyi, I'll have to stop you. It is now 1 o'clock.
Hey.
This bill will have a balance of time of 2 hours, 17 minutes. And the Honorable Wanyonyi, you have a balance of 8 minutes to prosecute your presentation when it is again set down on the order paper. Honorable members, the time being 1 p.m., this House stands adjourned until today, Wednesday, the 6th of April, 2022, at 2:30 p.m.